Hello everybody and a very warm welcome to the Giro Dell'Emilia, the 106th edition of this great race finishing in San Luca. Just outside of Bologna, a picture postcard, but we started in Carpi. Italy showing itself off as we're on the road now to Lombardy. Well, that's the setting, and this was the scene at the start. Young and old getting ready. Loads of races on. 2 professional races, amateur races as well. And some third division teams from Italy getting the opportunity to race against people. Well, let's face it, this is a Giro di Lombardia, a monument level start list. Some of the best racers in the world are here. This race organised by the Gruppo Sportivo Emilia. 25 teams are here. 7 riders, the maximum allotment. And of course the home team, Green Project Bardiani from Emilia Romagna. World superstars alongside them in the shape of the former world champion Julien Alaphilippe. He's here with his Soudal Quick-Step team. How long will they exist for? That's been the talk of the week. Akea Samsic finishing their first year at World Tour level, and well, Bora Hansgrohe, the centre of rumours today. Will that be the next destination for Primož Roglič? We will find out. They bring a former winner in Alexander Vlasov. A man in form is here to race for Ineos Grenadiers. That's Pavel Sivakov, a former winner on the podium for EF Education Easy Post, and Esteban Chavez. Richard Carapaz should be their main man on the road today. The Italian champion is here for Astana, Kazakhstan. That's Simone Velasco. And for Ineos Grenadiers, as well as Pavel Sivakov, it's welcome back to racing for Carlos Rodriguez. He's here as well, alongside the likes of Tiemann Arendsman. For Q36.5, just the 6 of their allotted 7 riders. And Asher Dozel bringing an informed Ben O'Connor alongside Felix Gall, looking for new.
L'australiano Christopher Hamilton dalla edizione numero 106. Dall'Australia Lucas Hamilton dalle 102 Italia Jacopo Mosca, 103 per Juanpe Lopez. Un grande applauso a Felix de Koning. Sempre un piacere col 73, Lars Vandenberg col 74, Romain Grégoire col 75. In Australia Jay Vine, 156 ha vinto il Tour de Romandie, Adam Yates, 157, Dylan Bates col 203, l'italianissimo col 204, un bel applauso Mario.
Israel Premier Tech here alongside Alpecin de Koning. They bring the likes of Quinten Hermons here and Stefan Oldani. Oldani already a Giro d'Italia stage winner. And the man in focus. We'll hear from him later on, but today admitting that he is leaving Jumbo-Visma at the end of the year. We wait to find out what will be his destination. Movistar team with the defending champion Enric Mas. They were presented alongside their women's team. Of course, women's and men's races on the professional level. And you can watch both races, of course, GCN Plus and Discovery Plus to catch up if you've missed any of them. This is the route then, out of what is a mainly flat Emilia region, but then into the hills around Bologna. 2 classified climbs before we get to the local laps. And it's 4 full laps in the end of San Luca. But 5 passages of the finish line. 9.2 kilometers per lap, one of the most scenic and beautiful you are likely to find in world cycling. And a race at just over 204 kilometers. Pogacar here as well. No shortage of big names. It's only the likes of Vingegaard and Evenepoel perhaps are missing here. Yates brothers too in their different teams. And this is how it looked at the start. We had Lascano, the Spanish champion, rolling out. And we were good to go. Beautiful weather for it as well in central northern Italy. It might be the 30th of September, but it is summer weather. It would be a fast start as well. 173 riders on the start line, a lot of them wanting to be in the breakaway. Not everybody having the legs to be there, however. As many as 16 of the 18 world teams present. Quite a few from the second division, including Bingol. And they were trying to get up the road early on with Arjen van der Beek. Astanawa there with Scaroni. He in the end would make it. And so would 7 other riders in the original day's breakaway. It would take a little while for things to settle down. Abreja was trying for Q36.5, the Swiss team. And Jacopo Mosca, often a man to chase breakaways down, this time was at it himself. Lidl Trek wanting to animate the race. Their main leader on paper at least, Giulio Ciccone for this race. Hoping to become the first Italian winner for 5 long years. That's the destination today. San Luca. In all of its glory and splendour. This is where we are right now, climbing Monte Nonascoso. All the way up to 706 metres at our first look at what is left of the breakaway. To bring you quickly up to speed, I can tell you that 8 riders got there. Bogna, Scaroni, Mosca, Mattia Bais, De Tir and Ansaloni all made it and are all still there. However, Montefiore, it's Matteo Montefiore of the not particularly well-known team Tecnipes in Emilia-Romagna. Raced too much on our television screens this year, but they've done well getting 2 riders in the break. One of those has been dropped. And Q36.5 did get a man in the break. That was the Spaniard Marcel Camprobi. He, however, has now been dropped as well. So 6 riders remain, and look at that, a 40-second gap with just under 79 Ks to go. You're watching live coverage of the Giro dell'Emilia, the 106th edition of one of the most entertaining, scenic and beautiful races in the world. Takes place in Emilia-Romagna, just outside of Bologna. We'll finish on a climb that's seen Giro d'Italia action in recent years and has seen many top-name riders be victorious here. Enric Mas defending champions here. Roglic and Vlasov, winners of a few races themselves here previously as well. Chavez returns, Ulysses here, plus those pretenders, the likes of Tadej Pogacar, whose best finish here was a 2nd place. It's a superb start list, and I've got brilliant company in the commentary box today. I'm Rob Hatch, alongside me Matt Stevens. And Matt,
Hey, Rob.
well, the games have started early, haven't they? And UAE Emirates with their hugely strong team here. Not just Pogacar, but Ayuso, Vine, Adam Yates, Diego Ulissi, a former winner, are all desperate to try and make this as difficult as it can be.
Yeah, they've got the capacity to do that as well, Rob. Great to be here. As you say, another glorious, glorious day. 27 degrees out in Bologna today, and you can see it's wonderful. This time of year, as we said the other day, super special. But just combing through this start list, it is 5-star quality, isn't it? It's absolutely superb. It has the feel of a monument. Not too long before we get to the final monument of the year, Lombardia, in just a few weeks. But yeah, UAE Team Emirates have brought an A-team here at all. There is no slack in that squad at all. It is a team that are setting about this race already. The lead of our 6 leaders, with the other couple of riders that you mentioned before, has diminished somewhat. And I do think it might actually be closed up before we get to the top of this climb. This is a nasty climb, actually. It tops out with 77 k's to go. Well, actually, they might just still have 15 or 20 seconds when they go over the top. But this is that process that UAE Team Emirates are so good at, just making the race as hard as possible to try and set up Tadej Pogacar. But when you look at the options that they have, although you would imagine it is all about Tadej Pogacar, they've got options there with Juan Ayuso as well, Adam Yates too. But I do think it's about him. But they have a team of such ridiculous depth that it's going to be fun on this finishing circuit. 5 ascents of that brutal climb. 10% average, maxing out on that little series of hairpins just before the top at 18%. And we saw Primož Roglic win the opening time trial there a few years back in the Giro d'Italia too. But it's absolutely beautiful, but painful.
Painful for those dropped in the breakaway. We're down to 2 now. This is the man from Italy and Astana, Kazakhstan. It's Cristian Sgaroni in a similarly coloured jersey behind for Eolo Cometa. One of the breakaway boys of the last few Giri d'Italia. His brother won a stage this year. That was Mattia Bais. By the way, if you don't want to know what's going on in the women's race, look away now. We will not spoil the result by saying the name either. A reminder, if you want to catch up on the race, make sure you go to GCN Plus and Discovery Plus, where you can watch it on demand.
Grande festa in casa FTC Suez con la piazza d'onore di Marta Cavallo. Juliette Labus, la francese del team DSM. Andiamo sulla 4ª posizione, lei è Gaia Realini, la scalatrice di Leader Trek. 5ª posizione per la basca Anne Sant'Esteban González, arriva anche la campionessa di Germania. Liane Lippert, la tedesca di Movistar, ma è festa grande in casa FTC Suez, mentre taglia il traguardo Sofia Bertizzolo, seguita dalla francese Vita Music.
Well, apologies if those images may have spoiled your viewing. I'm afraid that they have not come from us. They're coming from on site, from the feed that we're being sent from the organisers. Again, I will not mention the name of the rider we saw if you did manage to look away there. And a reminder that the Giro Dell'Emilia, you can catch up on it on our other digital platforms. Here we go then, 1 kilometre to the top of this. It's the last climb before we get to the loops around San Luca, isn't it? We've got Scaroni trying to push on here. They had, 40 seconds or so. And behind Mattia Bais. Keep looking away, look to the right.
I know.
Nothing to see here.
Nothing to see here. Well, there is something to see.
We do not want to spoil your viewing. Again, please accept our apologies. That is not coming from us here at Eurosport, Discovery Plus and GCN Plus. Certainly spoiled our viewing, Matt. I was planning on having a look at that afterwards.
I know. Well, we're still not going to comment. You just have to make your own mind up there. But if put one hand in front of your left eye, and you can look away there. But no, definitely watch that and catch up. It looks to be quite a spectacular race, an explosive one. And this race is exploding as well. Scaroni and Bais both looking very good. And as you say, looking back over previous editions of the Giro, Bais as you say, a real protagonista, isn't he? He's always in the moves. And of course his brother took that magnificent stage win in this year's Giro d'Italia as well. So some interesting moves afoot for that team for next year. And Rob, this time of year, the transfer rumour mill is of course in full flow, but I've never quite experienced anything quite like this the last couple of weeks we've had in the sport. The sport is being almost, to a degree, when you think about the real key players here, the big stakeholders in what's going on, could turn the sport on its head a little bit. And there's a lot of riders, members of staff as well, who are, things are hanging in the balance. It must be quite a nervous times for riders without contracts in two particular teams heading into this weekend. But I understand we will get a bit more clarity about this proposed merger between Soudal, Quick-Step and Jumbo-Visma on Monday. Patrick Lefevere's gone on record to say there will be clarity on Monday, or more clarity. Whether that will be definitive clarity remains to be seen, but we will know on Sunday. But it is a enormous talking point, isn't it? But as you say, the big question is, where will Roglic go? But yeah, if you do a bit of combing the internet, it looks as if, as you said at the top of the programme, it could be Bora, but we shall see. The plot thickens anyway.
Let's get on with the racing for now. This is Primož Roglic's first one-day race of the season, believe it or not. He said he hasn't done too much since the Vuelta. He's wondering what might happen in terms of his form. But it's not just about him here. We have a stellar start list. We're having a good look at them over the top of this particular climb before we head to the laps. And that's what this race is about, isn't it? Yep. It's going to be a quick sweeping descent now, a little bit of flat as we get into Bologna. Beautiful city. And then up through the laps via San Luca. Descent starting on the right hand side of your picture, as you can see.
It's the best part of 15 or 20 kilometres gently losing elevation before we head into Bologna and start those circuits. It's a really ferocious climb, and culturally enormously significant as well, with the Portico San Luca on the left-hand side of the road. It is the longest portico in the world, I believe. Spent many a nice afternoon walking up there in the past. It is absolutely gorgeous. 15 chapels along its route as well. Not that the riders have too much time to look at those, but this is Masaloni, should I say. Not a team that we get too many opportunities to talk about, but is third on the road at the moment. And the next few Ks are going to go by very, very quickly indeed to take us into Bologna.
38 seconds then for the two riders on those remaining in the breakaway. It looked like it was Emanuele Anzaloni who was still there chasing on, the rider from the third division team Tecnipe in Emilia-Romagna. And these are the two riders out in front who had 50 seconds now on what's left of the peloton. You can see even that was reduced there, Matt. It certainly wasn't the large group, was it? We started, remember, with 173 riders today. Yeah,
it's a big field, as you say. Not all of the World Tour teams, but the teams that have come to this race have brought, we have got a stellar lineup here. Little Trek brought Giulia Ciccone. As you said, we've got the return of Rodriguez. Pavel Sivakov is a man to watch out for too. Rounding out his time at the Ineos Grenadiers before moving to UAE Team Emirates, has had a really good, rich vein of form at the back end of the year. Perhaps fueled by not being picked to ride the Vuelta. I think that might have been he was a little bit disappointed not to go there, but has really stepped up and pulled out. It was his first ever win in a single-day race the other week, wasn't it? So, which was a significant victory. But watch out for him today. Him and Rodriguez, they will like this finishing circuit, that is for sure. Thibaut Pinot also another one to look out for too. Victor Lafay, Carapaz, Kemner. It is a cracking field. Ben O'Connor the other day when we were commentating, Rob, he seemed to be one of the strongest men in the race, but just wasn't quite, the brake combinations and just the way he rode it didn't quite fall into place. But he'll be another protagonist today, and maybe the dice will roll just a little bit differently for him today. But he is a man that's definitely in form and eager to impress at the back end of the year.
Just to get the pick of the road surface here, which you can see has been pieced together, or maybe unpieced might be the better expression. Lots of harsh weather in this part of the world. Beautiful and warm in summer. Just up here up on high, 600-700 metres, plenty of snow and cold in what is often quite a dry winter. Again, you can get that snow. As people getting back on in this group now. And the gap is growing to nigh on a minute on the main part of the peloton. .71.5 kilometres to go. You're watching the Giro Dell'Emilia. We're a week away now, Matt, from the last monument of the season. This time next week, Giro di Lombardia. One of my favourite days of the year. It always has been for me. Just the light, the weather, the setting, the scene. That's before you get to the riders. And, well, the riders, of course, make the entertainment. They're the stars that we love to watch. It's a beautiful place for them to act it out. Not a bad stage, is it, Northern Italy? And when we go a little bit further north in a week's time, we'll have had other races to build up as well. We've had a few riders starting to race in Italy. You and I were commentating the other day, weren't we, with the race that finished in Lissone. Coppa Agostoni, wasn't it? Giro delle Brianze. But today seems, Matt, to me, to be the day when all of the big hitters have come out after their little rest, whether it be after the Vuelta or other objectives. This now is the week where they really, really bring their season to a close.
Well, it's perfect timing, isn't it? We've got obviously Gran Piemonte next week as well, but this race in particular, in relation to where it falls, the final big race before in Lombardia. A good distance, not quite monument distance, just over 204 k's long, but it's the final finishing circuits that don't exactly replicate the parkour of Lombardy, but it's similar. These short, steep climbs that pepper the course, of course, in Lombardia. That's very unusual, quite unique format for a monument, the fact it starts and finishes in different places. And I think the true identity of the Lombardia is the fact it's constantly changing, almost like the colours of the leaves in the season with which it stands. You know, it is a beautiful, beautiful race. But no, this is an ideal preparation event, a good test of form. And I don't think Rods will be holding back. I think everybody here, the field we've got, there'll be no holding back, I don't think. Given the fact you've got a week before in Lombardia, this is a proper test to see how the form is before backing off, tapering a little bit, and then hitting a Lombardia next week. So I don't think we'll see any shocks in it in Lombardia. I think this would be a proper indicator of who's got the legs to actually try and win this one. I think anybody with an eye on winning Lombardy needs to test their legs on the climb today. They defy brutal ascents of San Luca.
If you look down at the palmarès, actually, you go back to Esteban Chaves' win here. He went on to win in Lombardy, of course. Mas was up there last year after his fantastic win here, despite not winning. Roglic is a two-time winner here. And you've riders on the podium who've gone on to do exceptionally well in this particular race as well. One rider who was on the podium last year, who amazingly is still racing, he's back again today, Domenico Pozzovivo. Before it gets going, I'm not quite sure what form he's in, because we haven't seen him too much on our telly screens, have we, for quite a while since the Giro d'Italia. But I'll tell you what, Domenico Pozzovivo again back racing. There he is for Israel Premier Tech, and on the start list for that team today with the likes of Fuglsang, Turns and Woods. There's some really strong teams here, and quite a few teams are hunting in packs, aren't they, with 2 or 3 different leaders, Matt?
Yeah, definitely. Just sticking with Israel Premier Tech, they have got a very, very good team. Nick Schultz is riding well. Dylan Teuns just coming to form nicely. Just missed out the other week down in Belgium, finishing second there. Stevie Williams as well has had a great end of the year too. He's been rewarded with a new contract, and as you said, Mike Woods. So again, this is the sort of climb. Once you get double-digit gradients on a finishing hill, this is where one man in particular, one name springs to mind, and that is the Canadian Mike Woods. A lovely chap, but a real fighter, and certainly will like this one. And they are a team with options. I don't think Fuglsang himself, although he's wearing up 201 as the leader, I don't necessarily think he'll be the leader for this race. I don't think his form's quite good enough, but definitely watch out for Teuns, Williams and Woods as the main leaders for that team, I think.
Time to breathe in, guys. Not a good look, that. Lots of cars found themselves onto the route there. Thankfully they've been stopped. And I'm sure that the approaching peloton behind will be warned. You're looking at Scaroni here for Astana, Kazakhstan. I gather that Astana, Kazakhstan might be building up to some sort of announcement in the coming days and weeks as well.
You can feel that one. You can certainly feel that one. Just the sort of riders that have been signed by that team, and the shape of the team is unfolding in a very particular direction, or in a very particular way.
I think you all understand what we're talking about, don't you? As we see UAE, and well, they've spotted those cars now. You heard the big cry. It looks as though there was no big warning actually until they saw the gentleman with the flag there down in Pilastrino.
It's not an ideal, obviously cars on the circuit like that isn't ideal. We do get it in some races, but it's even more difficult when it's at a junction, when it's at a right-hander, and when you take the apex, the bike just moves to the outside and you have to flick-flack back in again. But thankfully it was penalted. Not ideal, but it does look as if everybody thankfully has got through there safely. And right now these two in front doing a good job, still holding that bunch. I don't think UAE Team Emirates are going to be overly concerned about these two in front. That's of no disrespect at all. It's almost as if UAE are riding their own race. This isn't about necessarily riding to catch the riders in front. It's setting a tempo that they know they can maintain and actually take it into the finishing circuits. As we look at Matteo Jorgensen, I wonder what he's thinking, moving over to a team that he doesn't quite know what it might actually look like.
I was thinking about that this morning with Mikel Landa as well, who's signed to work for Renko Evenepoel next year at what he thought was Soudal Quickstep. But look at this, it's all laughing, fun and games back at the peloton. Pogacar delighted to be back. I think a lot of riders delighted to the fact that they'll be on the beach in a week or two's time as well. It's always a question of motivation as well as ability at this time of the year, isn't it, Matt?
Oh, definitely. And for certain riders as well, as we look at some of the start, we've got 5 stars, unsurprisingly, for Pogacar and Roglic, 4 stars there for Adam Yates and the rest. Sivakov. He's again very, very good field,
An incredible lineup, isn't it?
Yeah.
And that's not mentioning everybody. You know, to add to that list, the likes of Romain Bardet is here as well. He's been on the podium at this race. Sensational.
Yeah, for a lot of riders, as you quite these races towards the end of the year, they are hard fought for, but there will be riders in completely different states of mind. There's a completely different feeling to riding at this time of the year as to at the start of the year. The start of the year, everything is in front of you, but for some riders here, especially with what is happening in the background, what is quite the forefront of a lot of people's minds is there are still quite a few riders out of contract, Rob, and with 2 teams merging into one, it's going to leave a lot of riders looking for teams. So these races are increasingly significant and important for riders without contracts at the end of the year. And just a few moments ago, we did see Tadej Pogacar having a bit of a laugh and joke with Fausto Masnada, the Italian, for Soudal Quickstep. And of course, it was 2 years ago that both of those rode into the finish in Bergamo to battle it out, and that was the first in Lombardia that was taken by this man. So Masnada is a man that's finished on the podium in the Monument 2.
An amazing 4 monuments already for Tadej Pogacar in his career. And
it's incredible, isn't it?
Looking to make it a hat-trick next Saturday. He's in decent form coming back to racing. This is his 3rd race back, by the way. Had a little bit of a break for almost 2 weeks, really, after his last 2 appearances. He rode the Tour of Tuscany, Giro della Toscana, which is a 1-day race. 4th place there. The day after, he was racing in Peccioli, which is Coppa Sabatini. It's actually part of the same organisation of the Tour of Tuscany. And he was on the podium there in 3rd place as well. So hasn't been a bad return to racing after the World Championships.
No, not at all. He's building that form nicely, and he's been in more of a team player role, working with the likes of Ulissi, and also, of course, his teammate that's been on great form of late, Mark Hirschi, as well. So they've been there, and of course, the other day, it was the Italian that took them, wasn't it? Davide Formolo took the Coppa Agostini. So UAE Team Emirates have had a cracking season so far, and they are in fact the team that's just in the lead. They've just edged in front of Jumbo-Visma in terms of the world ranking points, the UCI world ranking points. So it is UAE Team Emirates. We just score across the board, despite the fact that Jumbo-Visma have won all 3 Grand Tours. It's just the consistency, and actually Tadej Pogacar's ridiculously good form in the early season classics that's racked up all of those points. But they are a team of real depth as well, and they are a team that we know that can shape any race that they ride in. But interestingly now, Movistar moving through to the front as well. And they've had a pretty decent season so far, but looking to finish on a high too. And they've got some clear options here, as you say, with defending champion Mas and in particular Matteo Jorgensen.
Italian host broadcasters can't get enough of Tadej Pogacar, can they? The camera's not been off him for the last 5 minutes.
Did you see him at the start? There was a little bit of social media. I think it was either yesterday or this morning before the start of Tadej Pogacar riding a unicycle at the start. So classic Pogacar. I don't know whether that was the other day, but yeah, it was in his helmet, in his kit, but bazzing around the start area on a unicycle. So a man of many, many talents.
Is there anything he can't do?
I don't think so.
What an ambassador for the sport. And again, it's the fact that he seems to do it all with a smile on his face.
That's it.
Really endears him to everybody.
He's can you call him a smiling assassin? Baby-faced assassin? Because he's so strong. But as you say, it's just the way he goes about things. And off the bike, he is an absolute pleasure. And yeah, inspirational, really.
Okay, let's take the temperature on this race because we're another 10 kilometres or so, very quickly closer to the finish line. Just above 60 k's to go now. Even the pets are out to watch this one.
Yeah, indeed. Little Dachshund there.
Lay Movistar at the front. That's Gregor Mühlberger on the right side, white jersey. I can tell you he's a Movistar racer. In fact, no, it's another of the national champions. It's Oyer Lascano, actually the Spanish champion. Two riders wearing white jerseys today for Movistar. They are Mühlberger, the Austrian champion, and Lascano, who comes from the Basque Country. He's the state champion, as they'd say up there, so national champion of Spain for us. And still, these two riders doing well to hold off, and this man's so experienced at this, Mattia Bais. This is his bread and butter, isn't it? Just trying to hold out, get the jersey on the telly, and one day hope for all the stars to align, and Mattia Bais is doing that. And he had experience of his brother doing that this year, winning that wonderful mountain stage, and the stars did align at Campo Imperatore for Davide Bais this year. And Sgaroni is in on the act with him today. But 50 seconds now, and this is in control. Felix Großschartner is the rider racing at the front for UAE Emirates. 60 kilometres from the line at the Giro Dell'Emilia. Building up to lots of themes of discussion this week. I know plenty of you will be fed up with the transfer, although I'm certainly in the camp that it's fascinating. I can tell you as well, Matt, there's that much going on. I'm on the verge of booking a working holiday for about a month this winter to try and get my head around everything. There is so much going on in terms of changes. But I appreciate it's not everybody's cup of tea. So another of the storylines this week comes elsewhere, and I think this will be quite a popular one, Matt. It's the last few races for a few different riders, including Thibaut Pinot, who's begun his final week of racing. And I know that it's going to be a very emotional day next Saturday in Bergamo.
No, definitely. It's emotional enough seeing the reaction. I was obviously on site at the Tour, Thibaut Pinot's last mountain stage, and the reaction. They love him in front. They absolutely love him, and the thing is, they love him here as well. Some of his best results in single-day races have been in Italy, in this part of Italy as well, including, of course, an addition of Lombardia. So it will be a massively emotional day for Thibaut Pinot, a man who often wears his heart on his sleeve, doesn't hold anything back, does he? As we well know.
Now that we talked about the transfer speculation, let's hear from Primož Roglic at the start today, talking to Antoine Plouvin. Well, we are going to hear from Primož Roglic. I've just been informed a minute ago, but again, I don't want to mention the names of the riders here. If you're big cycling fans, it's going to be pretty obvious who's standing on that podium. So try to look away if you can, if you'd like to catch up. Thankfully, that image has disappeared. Again, we're trying our best not to spoil your afternoon if you wanted to watch both races. But let's go and hear now from Primož Roglic at the start of the day, who is revealing something special to Antoine Plouvin.
Yeah, Nothing. I mean, I can just definitely confirm, yes, that I will leave the team, but we want to tell all the details to wear after the races that I do. So yes, first I'm here to race. So we focus here, and then we do next moves.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Well, short to the point. And Primož Roglic there telling Antoine Plouvin, man on site, but that was that. He was leaving Jumbo-Visma. Matt, I think most cycling watchers could probably have predicted that that was going to happen. We'd heard off the record that it was going to happen, really. And, of course, this merger that looks like it's going ahead again. We'll wait until Monday. So much going on at Jumbo-Visma, Soudal Quick-Step. That's going to have a knock-on effect. But Roglic leaving, lots of rumours, but nothing confirmed. He said he'll tell us within the next week or so. And it's going to be one of the biggest transfers in recent years, isn't it? Because you're talking about a guy who, this year in stage racing alone, as well as the other fantastic years he's had in the last few years, apart from the Vuelta, he's undefeated in stage racing. He's won every stage race he's turned up for.
Yeah, it's incredible. And we are looking at quite a relatively long-term contract. Remember, Primož Roglic is at a completely different phase, a completely different stage of his career. He's 34 years of age, but just keeps getting better and better. And as we know, started the sport relatively late, and he's just such an accomplished rider, an amazing focus, so versatile, and seems to have just got better over the last couple of seasons. So we believe, we don't know what team he's going to. We talked about the rumours, but we're talking about big numbers, big contract, a 3-year deal. But I don't think any of us really thought that was a surprise. But it's just this merger that's complicated things a little bit. But the destination, and I think when you think about where Roglic might go, the thing that intrigues me, put the merger to one side, when the dust is settled, what intrigues me about the next step moving into next year in the Grand Tours is going to be the way that the big players are spread out. I think it's quite important that Roglic moves somewhere else, just to spread out the talent a little bit. So wouldn't it be great to go to a Grand Tour rather than to have 2 riders that can win it, maybe 4? That would be absolutely wonderful, not from one team as well. So if he did go to the team that we think he might be going to, that would be massively interesting, going head-to-head with former teammates. I think it's only better for the sport. But no, it's quite tantalising, really. But when all is said and done in a couple of weeks' time, it looks like, from what he was saying there, Rob, that he might make the announcement after Lombardia about his actual destination. We'll then see what the landscape looks like, and we might even know by then the destination of Remco Evenepoel, for example, because there's rumours about him. So it will be amazing. And then off the back of that, we'll get the announcement of the Tour route, the Giro route as well, and next year will start falling into place. So there is so much to talk about. It's almost like we do need to step back in again, and look at this brand new landscape, because it's ebbing and flowing. It's coalescing like a newborn universe, isn't it? It really is. It's all these different gases and stuff forming these new planets and nebula. It's just and what will the landscape of professional cycling look like in 2024? We're getting a glimpse of it, but we still are not too sure.
You heard it here first from Matt Stevens. Pro Cycling's Big Bang, September, October 2023. Now then, back on planet Earth and on the roads of Emilia-Romagna, we have 55 kilometres to go, 39 seconds, still Scaroni, still Mattia Bais. His brother, by the way, not racing today, so it's just one of the Baises on the start list. They do have Lorenzo Fortunato, another rider to look out for in terms of trying to take a victory today. Well, for Italy it's been a while. Alessandro De Marchi was the last Italian winner. As we see the man who won last year at his team. He's wearing 1 today, is Enric Mas. He's with a strong team as well, look at this. Lascano, Jorgensen, Barter, who's been racing really well. Lascano's had the year of his life, culminating in that fantastic stage win over in Burgos. Spanish national championships as well. He's really stepped up this year, the rider from the heart of the Basque Country. And we're in the heart of what is one of Italy's big cycling areas. Emilia-Romagna, historically a huge industrial area, Matt. Of course, we're going to see its beauty and its tradition today and all the old fantastic buildings. Nowadays, Bologna is a massive university city. It's one of Italy's, if not the gastronomic capital of Italy. Very, very famous for its food. I'm not talking about spaghetti bolognese, for those of you maybe thinking about that. There's a bit more than spag bowl that comes from around here. But historically, this region is one of cycling's heartlands, when cycling was a really big working class sport, and you had the factories and the workers and the clubs coming together. And this is where a lot of Italy's cycling culture developed. So a very important race is the Giro dell'Emilia. One of the reasons why we've had 106 editions. We're talking right at the top of the broadcast. A bit of a chaotic start with some of the images we received from those broadcasters. Again, we apologise for those. About the recent winners, we had Roglic up twice, of course, Mas last year, Vlasov, the likes of Chavez as well, Ulissi, Quintana, Betancourt. You go further back, and through each era, all the stars are there. You had Simoni, Basso, Ulrich. In the decade before that, likes of Bartoli, Casagrande, Pugno in the 90s. Local boy Davide Cassani won it 3 times as well. Tony Rominger as well in the 80s. Our good mate Sean Kelly's wingman Acacio da Silva won in 1985 for Portugal as well. And going further back, all of the big names are there. Motta, Merckx, Moser. It's just a start list. And a roll of honour. Gino Bartoli, I look further back as well. Fausto Coppi, Adolfo Leoni. This is one of those races, Matt, that goes down in history, that if you are a bike rider and if you are with those names, you'd do anything to be on that list, wouldn't you, on the Albo d'Oro or the Palmares, as they say?
Oh, definitely. When you look at Giuseppe Olmo back in 1936, there's a lot of bike brands as well there as well. When you look at riders that went on to have bicycles made after them as well. So it is infused with real rich history. And interesting, just looking back through the results, the first edition of this wonderful race was way back in 1909, won by the Italian Eberardo Pavesi, and the first non-Italian winner, you have to go all the way to 1972, Eddie Merckx. So it was dominated by the Italians all the way for the best part of 68 years or something like that. So Eddie Merckx, the first non-Italian winner in 1972. But as you say, from then on in, it's just hitter after hitter that have won this one. And as you say, yeah, this is one of those races, one of those semi-classics that riders would love to get on their Palmares. Who's it going to be this year?
1909, what a year for Italian cycling and world cycling, because that was the year that the Giro d'Italia was born as well. Just being chipped away at, isn't it here? Chiselled away by Felix Groschartner, who's the only man riding really, but he's doing a sterling job. He's got it down to 36 seconds and one long line behind. Bits of feeding, preparing, getting ready. I guess the fun and games really start, Matt, once we get to the first of 5 ascents up to the sanctuary at the top of San Luca climb just outside of Bologna.
Yeah, I think they're clearly going to ride into it and take it up first time up and just wear this field down, whittle it down as quickly as they can. And because it's such a short circuit, because the climb is so relatively long, plus you've got the descent and the positioning for the second time, the third time up the climb, it is important to get everything, all that preliminary stuff that you need to do before you hit the circuits is being done now. We're into that final phase, the final quarter of the race, 51 k's to go, total distance of 2:04, so bang on 25% of the race still to go. But because of the technical nature of the circuit, because the amount of time you spend on the climb and the descent, there's not a lot of time to do anything else. So very important to get everything sorted before we hit the climb for the first time. And by the way the things are riding, so the peloton are riding, it is going to be UAE that just hit that climb first time up, maybe with Movistar in there to be a little bit disruptive as well, but the plan being just to make this race as hard as possible. But when you look at all the big leaders of all the big World Tour teams, that's the way that they like to ride, is just to make it as hard as possible and then go even harder the last couple of times. But so we shall see. It's a wonderful race. I am a big fan of hilly finishing circuits, I must admit, because it's got the feeling of a mini World Championships, and as you know, I'm a big fan of the world. So I do like a finishing circuit. Great for us, great for the crowds. Brilliant racing.
Three-quarters way through, 155 kilometres ridden, 50 remain. It's time to start the party. Giro dell'Emilia, with two Italians at the front, but with a peloton of international superstars ready to catch them. 43 seconds for Scaroni and Mattia Bais. But 5 climbs to San Luca still to come. The descent is often important in this race as well, Matt. It's short, sharp, not always overly technical. It's not the easiest of road to navigate either down there, certainly when you're racing at race pace in a bunch full of riders, and of course everybody's battling for those positions.
Yeah, and it's fighting for position. Depending when they hit this climb, it's quite a steep turn before they swing into the climb as well. So you actually lose quite a lot of momentum. So when you hit a climb with a lot of pace, it's not quite as important. Positioning is always important on the bottom of a steep climb, of course, because it's hard to make up those gaps. But when you're decelerating into a corner, and then you've got a 10% grade kicking out of the corner, it takes a lot to get back into contention. So positioning, as we say, it is a commentator's cliche. Positioning crucial, especially heading into the last couple of laps when those gaps start to open up. But it is a nasty climb. It really, really is. But these riders will know it well. As you said, we've got multiple winners in this field. Little Trek just moving up on the outside as well. One would imagine that they'll be looking after Giulio Ciccone. Mosca's already been in the move.
I was going to say, what an absolute superstar he is. He's been in the breakaway today, and there he is, bossing it at the front, giving everything that's left in the tank, which can't be much now after being in the break, to make sure that Ciccone is in the right place.
Yeah, definitely. I didn't expect to be calling his name again, actually, Jacopo Mosca, but as you say, if these riders, if they're still in the bunch, rather than just sitting in the wheels, these riders will go all the way just to see what they can do for the team. We often see riders do a big turn on the front, get dropped. If there's an easing, they'll get back on and move straight back through to the front. That's the sort of rider with those sorts of qualities, as never say die attitude, who will, as long as they've got something to offer, they will offer it. And it just makes sure that you can keep your resources intact for as long as you can. So it's a crucial role. It means that Lidl Trek didn't have to do any riding earlier on. Not that really of the teams here you'd think they needed to, but the fact that he's still protecting his team leader, moving up to the front of the bunch, which is at this stage in the race, they make it look so easy, don't they? But I can tell you, these riders here, they're going to be riding at about 350 watts, something like that, just for anybody who knows that sort of number. And they've already been riding for the best part of 3.5 hours, and he's been in a breakaway. So there's a lot of energy being used just sitting at the front here, but they do make it look very, very easy. But I can tell you it isn't.
We got a great illustration in the last 2 or 3 minutes in that passage of play of parkour knowledge. I mean, everybody, it's the industry standard, I guess, now back in the car. They've got the Velo Viewer on, apps like that, haven't they? And, everybody's told, okay, right turn coming up here. And you could just see the changing shape of the peloton approaching that moment, Matt. And that's why we saw Mosca there. That's why DSM moved up to keep Valdez safe. We suddenly started to see the green jerseys of Bora Hansgrohe, which we haven't really seen so far during the day. And UAE Emirates, instead of sort of having one guy there, then you had the Movistar team, they moved all of their white jerseys up to the front, just because we had that 90-degree right turn. These races increasingly are one on the details, and that might seem insignificant, but it's one little less bit of energy you've got to use from coming to the back to the front if you're out of position.
Exactly, and these roads are pretty small. But as you say, Robbie, you're quite right. There's so much open source information available to the riders here. The team managers will be passing exactly the same information on. And how do you get, when you're all sharing the same information, what do you do to make sure you're one step ahead? You just constantly keep anticipating, and the more teams that start to anticipate, even relatively early into the final phase of racing, this extra anticipating and making sure you're in the right place before you really need to be in the right place. All that does is create this added momentum, and that's why races are getting quick, or one of the reasons races are getting quicker and quicker and quicker, because teams are looking at the finer details. How do we make sure that we conserve as much resource as we can? Well, you do that by making sure you're in the right position, not having to move up when you don't need to. But everybody's doing the same sort of thing. So you've got all the same information, and it's how you disseminate that information and how you use that information is key. And that's why it's increasingly important to have DSs, managers, road captains that can think a little bit differently as well. Otherwise, everybody's going to be in exactly the same position. So it is fascinating. We've got all of this data, and you think, well, that's going to make it. But the key is right. How do you unlock that data? How do you unlock that knowledge, that information that everybody has? It really is fascinating, and that's why I think it's one of the main reasons we're seeing racing getting faster and faster and faster.
Fascinating is the word, I think, as well. How it's developed, how everybody catches up when somebody moves forward. How each team realises they have to do the same to be just at the level. And then everybody's always looking for the next thing. Well, here we've got 46 kilometres to go. One of the big prizes on the Italian autumn calendar is up for grabs. Many of the biggest racers in the world are here and present. Well, our television viewers are just going to join us in a moment on Eurosport, so for those of you who've been watching with us from the start, I'm sure you'll appreciate it, and you'll forgive us if we just very quickly bring them up to speed and to introduce the race to them. And of course we'll get on with the business of the laps around San Luca. What promises to be an excellent hour of entertainment or so. This is just the aperitivo. Next Saturday we've got the big thing from start to finish. Giro di Lombardia. I'm sure you'll be able to join us on Eurosport, Discovery Plus and GCN Plus, wherever you're watching. A reminder to check your territory restrictions and your schedules. That'll be the last monument of the season, but racing will carry on the road for a week or two after that as well. A couple more of Italian races to go over in the Veneto. Matt and I will be commentating on the final World Tour stage race of the season as well, on the Tour of Guangxi. So breakfast time action for those of you watching in Europe.
Yeah, still plenty of racing, isn't there, to go? Then we move into lots of cyclocross track racing as well. Mountain biking going on as well. It's yeah, wall-to-wall action. The James Knox made an appearance just at the front there on our right-hand side, his left, for Soudal Quick-Step.
These two ploughing on brilliantly. Their fate seems set. Our television viewers then are just about to join us. It's the Giro Dell'Emilia, the 106th edition of one of the big races building up to the Tour of Lombardy. The Giro di Lombardia is exactly a week away, and all of the big stars have come out of their late summer hibernation. If they've been at the Vuelta and had a rest, they are back. If they've not done much since the Worlds, they're here. And this is the week they build up form and fitness to try and take the final monument of the season. On the right-hand side, a peloton that contains the likes of Mas, Roglic on a big day for him when he's announced he is leaving Jumbo-Visma at the end of the season. Julien Alaphilippe, the man who's won the last two Tours of Lombardy. Thibaut Pinot into the final week of his racing career, and loads of other big names ready to try and win. There were 8 riders in the breakaway today in what is a 205-kilometre long race. 2 big climbs have been taken on already, but we're about to head on to the local laps. We're approaching Bologna, and we're going to be climbing 5 times to the beautiful, stunning sanctuary at the top of San Luca. They're all ready to go. It's been full gas. Matt Stevens is alongside me, Rob Hatch. And from 8 in the break, we're down to 2. Bais and Scaroni, however, Matt, well, their time's almost up, isn't it?
Yep, just the way that the bunches move now. Look at the paces. Flat at the front, but that belies the fact they're moving at the best part of 50 k's an hour. Still Grosshartner in the centre there for UAE. We'll be approaching, the first ascent of the climb. We go through the finish line for the first time. We ascend this climb on 5 occasions, remember. It's 36.8 k's to go. The climb is 2.1 k's. So a quick little bit of maths means we're only about 4 or 5 k's away from the foot of the climb. And these riders will be called very shortly. It's been a good ride here by the 2 out in front. They've done well to keep the bunch at bay for so long. But I do think the rate that they're losing time now, they will be caught maybe just at the bottom of the climb for the first time.
20 seconds is all they have, and it's this big wide boulevard that's favouring those teams behind Matt who move up and want that position when they turn onto the climb for the first time. We're starting to see jerseys at the front of the chasing group that we have not seen all day. They've been hiding, they've been waiting, they have big plans. Always visible, the pink jerseys of EF Education Easy Post. They've had a quiet day so far, but they have quite the team here with Carapaz, former winner Chavez, Uran, who's been on the podium on 3 occasions before as well, alongside the likes of Honoré, Piccolo, Camargo and Shaw, all there to do the work. It's 15 seconds now. One by one, the motorbikes are out the gap.
A little glance around there. Despite the fact they know they're going to be caught, they'll just keep plugging away for as long as they can. It's just what riders do, isn't it? And they know that it's a forlorn hope now. There's the bunch just behind, just a matter of 150 metres away. Flat across the road. But very soon they will be on that climb. It's a beautiful climb though. It's such an interesting looking climb. It's a real... you go through that, I think about halfway up, they actually go through an archway, don't they? And then there's that real steep section, that little flick-flack. But the road is absolutely relentless. The average gradient for the entire 2.1 k's, remember, is 10%. It's a horrible, horrible climb. 5 ascents, 4 laps of 9.2 k's, and there is the peloton. Looks to have swelled somewhat. A lot of riders who were distant on the climb have got back on, but expected, I think even first time up, Rob, it should thin out considerably, I think. But given the way that a lot of the big teams are now moving to the front, the interesting thing for me is which team will decide to pick up the pace on the climb itself. A lot of teams won't want to commit just yet. They just want to get their riders in a good place at the bottom of the climb. But I have a feeling that UAE Team Emirates will be the team to pick up, well, not the slack, but just to pick things up on the climb itself. And interestingly, on the wheel of Grosshartner was Juan Ayuso. I think Ayuso, from what I've seen, might not be looking to go too deep into this race. Might be a little bit fatigued, of course, from the Vuelta, but what a rider to have as a super domestique if that is indeed the case.
Yes, it's not just about Pogacar. They have a former winner in Ulissi, who won 10 years ago. Ayuso, you mentioned. Adam Yates, Jay Vine. Grosshartner has been working hard, and Rafael Majka as its Gruppo Compatto, all together with 41 kilometres remaining. And look at what it's taking just to stay at the front here.
Yep, so Vacek on the front, on the right-hand side, the Czech champion for Lidl Trek. And also moving through, this is Frigo, Marco Frigo. Good ride by the young Italian. Not too long before we hit the lower slopes of this climb now, but a good bit of riding from the man from Israel Premier Tech. Had a fantastic Giro d'Italia as well, this young man.
So close to victory in the breakaway, the Giro d'Italia stage that went in the end to Bergamo. It was a fantastic victory for Brandon McNulty on that day. It's been a big day for Primož Roglic, who had this to say at the very start to Antoine Plouvin.
Talk about the future of Jumbo-Visma, about your future too. What can you tell us, and what's your state of mind at the moment?
Yeah, nothing. I mean, I can just definitely confirm, yes, that I will leave the team, but we want to tell all the details to wear after the races that I do. So yes, first I'm here to race, so be focused here, and then we do next moves.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And in typical Primož Roglic style, done, dusted, He's uttered the words, he's leaving. It was predictable, but he is leaving the team, and we'll find out in the next few days where. Lots of different rumours, depending on what day of the week it is. Always a nervous watch around those tight corners. Vacek was there. Frigo was looking for his teammate behind. And Vacek is back now, the Czech champion. The right-hand side, you can see that Barré-Peintre is moving up O'Connor for Age Desert. Left-hand side, a couple of riders moving up in their pink jerseys. Jaco Alula here to have a fantastically strong team. The likes of Simon Yates, Filippo Zana, Chris Harper as well, who was in great action in the week. And we got our first look at Julian Alaphilippe through the centre, as Jan Tratnik is there as well, the former Slovenian champion, looking after his teammate Primož Roglic, who, by the way, is racing his first one-day race of the season. However, he is a two-time winner of this event. It's Honoré at the front in the pink jersey for EF Education Easy Post. Look who's on his wheel, Matt. It's Richard Carapaz, Ecuadorian national champion, an all-round superstar. A race like this, if he's on form, it's right up his street, isn't it?
Oh, definitely. He's looking good. He's been piloted very well to the bottom of the climb. We're there very shortly. Ben Turner also there. He was taken up the front by Ben Swift. There's Pavel Sivakov just on the wheel of the British rider for the Ineos Grenadiers, just on the inside, but a good long turn here by Honoré. Looks like he's going to take them in to the bottom of the climb. Thankfully, that spectator stepped out of the way just at the right moment, and here is the climb. In the Giro d'Italia TT, we took a hard right. We do carry a lot more momentum at the bottom of here, through the archway and on to the climb of San Luca, and there is that beautiful portico, that covered walkway that takes you all the way to the top.
The longest in the world, as you said, Matt. The climb's not the longest in the world, but it's one of the hardest out there. 2.1 kilometres, average of 10%, maximum of 18%, and this, as far as natural stadia go, is one of the most special around, with special riders at the front. Matteo Jorgensen left-hand side. Former world champion Alaphilippe is there as well. Tratnik through the centre, Carapaz. You can see on the right-hand side that we've got our first move. Nobody, though, is willing to chase. It's one of these third division teams who've been invited, looking for their moment. And I'll tell you what, if you're in the third division teams here, this looks like the GW Shimano Sidamek team. And this is old Swiss Tony's new outfit.
It is. Primarily based in Colombia, aren't they? They've a continental team, as you say. Good little move here. Road flattens ever so slightly, but then it does kick up again, as you can see by the pace that the peloton are moving here. There's indeed a Tratnik on the front there, settled into a nice rhythm. I think after that little bit of positioning play, they're more than happy just to let this rider go. And there we go, it is indeed one of the Colombians in the squad, Alejandro Osorio Caradial.
Osorio then trying to get away, and if you're from this team that's in its first year of development after Gianni Savio's team lost the sponsor, it's a great photograph to have that going up that climb out in the front. He might be about to get some company. That looked to me like a rider from Groupama FDG, Matt, has just managed to get out the front.
Yep, certainly was. They've got a couple of very good climbers. They've got Lenny Martinez. So watch out for him. It's Quentin Pache, yep. Himself a very good climber. Looks like there might be somebody just teeing themselves up for a counter there from the Bingold team.
Time to get out and have a look. They come to what will be the final kilometre when they get there.
Yeah, the hardest part of the climb still to come. The steepest gradients maxing out at 18%. Just go through this little chicane, that little left and right. We're just coming to it now. And this is where it really does start to kick up.
Moving up left and right, and it's now Soudal Quickstep who get their rider to the front. Osorio is now to be joined by Paschal.
Great crowds here. Tifosi loving it.
Osorio struggling though.
Yeah, you
First
can see the way.
effort really taking it out of him.
Oh yeah, he was just tacking across the road. He just did basically taking a longer line just to shave a couple of percentage points off the gradient, weaving left and right. And there you go, there's that little chicane that I was talking about. That is the steepest section of this climb. And then it just keeps on going as well. We had that slightly flatter section about 500-600 meters ago, but now it is solid 10%, and it only flattens out a couple of 100 meters to go. And it looks like it's the unmistakable figure of Rafa Majka on the front there. How reliable, how solid is Majka? Sat in the center there. Pache looking good.
Sounds like a football chant, doesn't it? But it's Tadej Pogacar's black and white army who are there.
Indeed.
And of course, an Emiliano Romagnolo, one of the most repeated and regarded names in Italian cycling history. Marco Pantani is never forgotten by his faithful fans. Chef stays out there. Osorio has been caught. The arch is on the left for the first half of the climb. You go under that bridge, as Matt was saying, then it's on the right. And we start to see a true semblance of how sharp the climb is from looking down the hill there. Beautiful view of Bologna in the background. Paschal briefly turns out of sight. Now then, another rider off the front. Looks like it could be somebody from Jaco Alula.
Yep, big launch off the front. There's still UE Team Emirates leading the peloton, slowly thinning out as the road continues to rise.
Looks like it's Harper again.
Yep, up the road the other day, wasn't he? Clearly a man on form. There's that very narrow pinch point there that you've got to be aware of. But Harper bridging pretty smoothly and efficiently. Rock solid.
Two very strong riders out there, and Chris Harper and Quentin Paschal. That strings out the group a little behind, which is being whittled down pedal stroke by pedal stroke. This is the first of 5 ascents up to San Luca, and they're about to get their very first view of the sanctuary itself at the top. Nobody will be finding sanctuary yet because there's 4 full laps still to go.
Yep. Yeah, Harper's had a good end of year, hasn't he? Good move. Was up the road the other day, finished inside the top 5. He was in the breakaway, wasn't he, in the Coppa Agostoni the other day. But a good foil as well for Jaco Alula. It means they can just sit back. They've got Zana and Yates as well, who one would imagine would be up there later on today. This is where the road just slightly flattens now, just coming into the last couple of 100 metres. Flattens to the line. But Harper looks to be causing Pache a little bit of hurt here. The strongest of the two, the smoothest of the two, looks to be the man on the front at the moment. But a good little move here.
So Groupama and Jaco Alula, the two teams who've stolen a march. 4 laps to go as we're through the finish line for the first time of 5. Rafał Majka continues to work behind, and UAE have good numbers. Quick sighting of Chavez, the former winner there. Roglic, the former 2-time winner, sits on the wheel of his compatriot Tadej Pogacar, who last year finished second here to Enric Mas. Still a big enough group, this, Matt, and lots of names still in contention.
Yeah, it hasn't thinned out too much at all. Maybe 1 or 2 have been dropped, but the vast majority of the peloton are there. A few riders just starting to struggle at the back as we hit the descent. 18 seconds they've managed to eke out here, Pache and Harper. A very solid, more than capable duo here. This is our first good look at this descent. As I say, not super technical, nice and fast, and as you can see, freshly surfaced, or relatively freshly surfaced here.
It's an interesting one, isn't it? It sort of arises very briefly again before it drops down once more to Bologna.
Yeah.
9.2 kilometres each lap. So before they know it, they're going to be on the climb again. It just hits you, it repeats and repeats, and that's exactly what Roglic was telling our colleague Antoine Plouvin at the start, when, of course, everybody was interested more in the transfer speculation, but with regards to the race, he was saying, no, it just hits you, and it is that kind of circuit. There's no time to breathe, really. It's the second part of the climb that I talked about. There's an initial dip down and then another lip to climb here. You think you're resting, but this hits you first.
Yeah, even that first part of the descent there, that little drop-off, it wasn't super steep. They're pedalling pretty much all the way down, but this is cruel, this little kicker.
We're on our first full lap around one of the most famous circuits in professional cycling. It's the Giro Dell'Emilia in central northern Italy. just around the town of Bologna, city I should say, Italy's gastronomic capital, one of the big university cities in the world. In fact, home to the oldest university in the world, in Bologna itself. Not too much learning to be done here though, many know the circuit. They'll be graduating at the top of the podium later on. We will find out in less than an hour now. This is 24 seconds of a gap from Harper alongside Paché to a UAE-led peloton.
Yeah,
and it's growing, Matt Stevens.
Yeah, it is. 26 seconds now, as you can see. Harper definitely looks to be the smoothest here. Just on top of that, go a little bit more. Just look at the way that Paché's got a slightly more of a ragged style anyway. But to me, the strongest of this duo is the man on the front at the moment. Paché struggling to hold the wheel of Harper. But Harper is a man on form. And this drag continues up, doesn't it? Before they then drop back down again. And as you said, it won't be too long before we're back on to the climb for the second time. So not a lot of time for any sort of recuperation at all as Paché continues to suffer on the wheel of the man from Melbourne.
There's no flat on this circuit at all. You're up, you're down, and quite viciously so many times. Warren Barguil, is in good form the other day, wants to move up. Last few races for him in the red jersey of Arkea Samsic. Jan Tratnik makes sure he's in the right place as well for Jumbo-Visma. After a little break, he's happy to be back in action. 26 seconds for the two leaders. And you can just tell we're about to dive down again, because you get those riders who are just trying to sneak up and gain a position or two for that descent, Matt.
Yeah, definitely. You can see it's relatively narrow, and as soon as you start picking up a pace on this descent, you'll end up a long way back, or you're in danger of ending up a long way back. So riders just moving up around the outside, timing that move, very important as well. And as you say, all of these riders, most of these riders, will know this circuit very well. They know exactly the right point to move up. That's a real tight hairpin, quite an acute bend, that one. A lot of pace being shaved off, almost a step down to the apex of that corner. Rafa Majka still on the front here. I tell you what, looking at the last couple of years and how important Rafa Majka is to UAE Team Emirates, he is just amazing, Rob. The amount, the work rate that he puts in, his consistency is absolutely incredible. And you were commentating, you had a big epic commentary on Montreal, didn't you, in Quebec? And what Majka did to the field on the final couple of laps in Montreal was nothing short of amazing. I think he quite often is unheralded. I think for me, he can really shape a race, and so reliable, hardly ever has any dips in form. And arguably at the peak of his powers in the way that he climbs, they can just use him for a couple of laps here. He can go very, very deep into the race and split things up, as we look at some of the winners over the last few years.
The last 6 winners briefly flashing up on your screen there. And these are the two who are in front. For the first time, they've lost a second or two. Chris Harper, we were talking about extensively just a couple of days ago when you and I were both on commentary at Coppa Agostini, just a little further north from here in Lombardy. Had a few wins in his career, but nothing at this level. He has, however, put in an assist or two, if you like, to use a bit of football parlance. A great race, and alongside George Bennett, didn't he? Back in Barolo a few years ago. He's helped other victories as well since he moved over from Jumbo-Visma to Jayco Alula this year. It's with Paché there, who has had a solid enough rise so far through different teams. He was with BMB for a while, wasn't he? Groupama rider now, and a veteran of a few Tour de France. Talking about Tours de France, Rafa Majka, I mean, it's easy to forget what he did when he was racing for his own opportunities.
Oh yeah, totally. Yeah, twice.
Rolls Royce of a bike rider.
Yeah. You just know that people will sort of start to wince as soon as he gets on the front on a climb and starts to wind it up, and the shape of the peloton changes, the gaps start to open, but he just keeps leaning on it. He's got that relentless rhythm. He uses a slightly higher, sort of lower cadence as well, quite high torque, Rafa Majka's style, but devastatingly effective, and he really has honed that. And massively important component part of the engine room of UAE Team Emirates. And boy, they've got a strong team, but for me, he's one of the standout lieutenants. It really, really is. But as you say, immensely decorated over the years. Won his home tour in the past as well, way back in 2014. Done a long career now, 34. As you say, it just gets better and better.
30 kilometres to go. 26 seconds is the gap. They've dived down the hill. Problem now is they have to climb it again.
Yeah, they're straight onto the climb. Next time up, across the finish line, 27.6 k's to go. So they pretty much bang on to the climb again. And if you get caught at the back here, you get that horrible concertina effect. And if they decide to gas it this time up, it's very difficult to move up. But the way that UAE Team Emirates are riding here, I have a funny feeling they're going to want to set a good tempo pretty much every single time up the climb. And there we go, through the archway and back up again. So just this tiny little bit of flat before we hit these ferocious slopes.
Look at this, what a natural stadium.
It's beautiful, isn't it? Look, bang, look at that gradient there, boff. It's almost like you have to lift the front wheel up before you actually get onto the climb. It's a proper little wall, isn't it?
Even the camera was scared there, that's why it froze.
Bunny hop onto the climb.
It's going to be UAE Emirates who lead us onto it again. 5 of their riders at the front. The back of the line, the Slovenian champion, Tadej Pogačar. And 2 Slovenians on his wheel, Primož Roglič and Jan Tratnik. Through the arch they go, up the hill to start, and look at how it hits them.
Yep.
Just in case you weren't sure, there are the vital statistics. Salita climb, San Luca, 2.1 kilometres in length, 10% average, 18% maximum, and it's Chris Harper, the Australian, who looks to be putting Quentin Pacher in a little bit of trouble, Matt.
He just looked to be stronger. So the way he got across the gap in the first instance and the way that Pacher was struggling even on the wheel, just his body language, and we saw it there, seems to be losing the wheel. Yeah, and he's lost it. So, but the way Harper's been riding, I think at this point in the race, you can't wait. I mean, you know, that's it. Unless Pacher can actually get himself back into contention, Harper just needs to ride his own rhythm. He has a little look around. He's just got to keep going here.
That's going to change things tactically as far as Groupama FDG are concerned. We don't know as to how Thibaut Pinot is feeling. He's into the final week of his career now. Be emotional, as it often is with Pinot. There's legions of fans. I'm sure will be strapping themselves in for every race they can catch with him in this week. He'll be on the roads of his greatest exploits next Saturday as he says goodbye.
He's doing a good ride here, isn't he, Harper? He's actually opened up the gap again. Okay, Rafa Majka isn't going full gas here, but he's setting a decent tempo.
Half a minute then. Jay Vine on the wheel of Rafał Majka. Further look back to Adam Yates, Diego Ulissi and Tadej Pogačar. And Harper continues to put time into them. 32 seconds now.
Looks good on the bike, doesn't he? He's got quite an old school, classic style, rangy, sits back, very smooth. Almost as he goes past the Pantani graffiti on the road here, he's riding in the style of Pantani. Pantani, of course, famed for climbing on the drops. Most riders don't. They can climb on the hoods, especially on steep climbs like this. So I think that will endear this Australian to the Tifosi even more. This is where it kicks up.
Love that.
They will, won't they? 18% here. He's doing a cracking job. 34 seconds now.
As we explained before, they know they're cycling in these parts. It's one of the world's great traditional cycling cities, is Bologna. And all the way back to its industrial past and the whole region. And they'll also love the fact that the Italian champion's on the attack. Here's Simone Velasco.
Good launch there by Velasco. He's a man who's in good form. It looks like it's Vere He's trying to get across the gap. Very had a good race the other day, the Italian from Arkea Samsic. Here's the move, just on the inside, just as the road really starts to kick up. Little glance across there from Micah. No response.
Well, almost obliged to put on a show for these supporters, the man in the tricolore. That's exactly what he's trying to do, is Simone Velasco. By no means having favourites here at this race, Astana, Kazakhstan. So they're going for it. And it's Velasco again, who now takes on Paschal. But behind, they're just not letting them go. It's Jay Vine who's taken over now. Well, that attack has done one thing, and just weakened ever so slightly UAE Emirates, hasn't it, Matt?
Just a little bit. See Adam Yates out of the saddle, has a little look round. Fausto Masnada is on the wheel of the British rider for Soudal Quickstep. But Jay Vine just sewed that back together again, didn't he? And as we had that aerial shot, you could just see some of the riders towards the back of the bunch, again, tacking across the road just to try and shave off a little bit of the brutality of this, the steepness of this climb. But Velasco's had a good year so far. Of course, his biggest win brought that jersey, but he hasn't opened up the gap that I think he'd hoped to do. So Vine sits there. I think he'll just move through to the front and pick things up again.
If you're watching on the telly, you've just missed an attack from the Italian champion Simone Velasco. Harper, who had dropped Paschal, had managed to get the gap out to 35 seconds. Now, the attack from Velasco's been brought back, but it's done for Rafał Majka for the minute. And Jay Vine is the man, the Australian, who reacted well. It's his compatriot who's up the road, and Jayco Alula having the best tactical card to play at the moment. But there's still a long way to go as Fausto Masnada now puts in his dig. It's an Italian who's on the march, who's on the move, and after a man who suffered through injury and illness in the last 18 months or so. Remember, this was a guy who was fighting it out for a victory at the Giro di Lombardia a couple of years ago. Great to see him back, great to see him active, and Soudal Quickstep now lay one of their cards on the table.
Yeah, good move there by Masnada. Opened up the gap straight away. As Harper rolls through, and rolling that big gear, nice and smooth. Takes a bottle this time through. It's a hot, hot day here. 27 degrees, so it looks like the sun has ever so slightly gone in. No shadows on the road, but 3 laps to go now, Rob.
Thirsty work as he takes the beat on. Masnada, in need of refreshment himself. It's a warm day today. Strange old summer. Hottest on record, they say. It's extending into the beginning of the autumn in Northern Europe and in Southern Europe. Here at the centre of all that, just as we start to get down of what is classed as the south. It is in the mid to high 20s today. 19 seconds then. If Masnada can get to Harper, which isn't an easy task in itself, gives them a bit of renewed impetus for this second part of the climb, Matt.
Definitely. This little bit here, and when the road just starts to kick up, that's the bit where I think Masnada will start to take a bit of time out of Harper. If they would just join up in front, we've got that would be a pretty interesting situation. I don't think UAE Team Emirates in particular, they're the team that's taken up the reins, they're the team that were riding earlier on, they're the team that have set the pace up the climb on these first 2 occasions. I don't think they'll be overly worried just yet, but what you can get in situations like this, Rob, is just once 1 or 2 riders start to get across the gap, more and more teams get represented, and that's when you've got to start thinking. But I don't think there'll be anybody panicking at all. But when you look at the lineup of Soudal Quickstep here, we know that Alaphilippe isn't in the form that he would like himself to be in. And they're certainly just a team that's taking their chances here. Masnada's feeling good. His form has been on the ascendancy. Had a solid performance in Luxembourg, top 10 on the opening stage there. He's clearly feeling good, and if you look back over the years, a lot of his best results have been at the back end of the year as well. And he'll be one of many riders in that team who's wondering about what is going to happen next year, but again, they'll try and put that behind them, put that to the back of their mind and focus on the racing at hand, focus on their job. Masnada closing the gap, 2 seconds now. This is the bit you'd imagine here, Rob, where he might actually try and eat into the lead a little bit. and he certainly looks to be moving a little bit more rapidly.
18 seconds still to make up. He has just over 10 on the peloton. It's still a good half a minute for Harper. He's putting in an exceptional performance here.
Yep.
Masnada, by the way, in this Soudal Quick-Step team today with Julien Alaphilippe and Ilan Wilder, who you imagine are the leaders, but
yes,
don't forget Mauro Schmid, or we should maybe call him Las Vegas Mauro Schmid now. Not sure if he'll be gambling on anything at the end of the day, but there's Van Sevenant, Knox, as we've seen already, who's doing quite a bit of work, wasn't he, to position Soudal Quick-Step into the foot of the climb the first time. Masnada here, and Bajoli, who's one of the riders who's already confirmed to be leaving the team, whatever happens, whether there's a merger or not in the end. He'll be heading to Lidl Trek. A look behind from Masnada, which isn't always a good sign. The gaps at the minute, at least on the top of our screen, are not changing, Matt.
No. That little acceleration that took him away from the bunch and into the void between the leader brought him 5 or 6 seconds, but it's stabilised now. As Harper again out of the saddle. Turning a big gear, just getting that momentum. It's over the final part of that climb, the second step as it is. Still half a minute on the bunch behind, so he's riding exceptionally well. But I don't think now he's got to the top of the second part of the climb that he's going to be caught by Masnada before the climb itself, because we've got that fast descent to come now.
He's nearly there again. Time to drop down once more. All alone this time.
Yeah, here's that steep step. Yeah, straight on the gas out of the corner there. Yeah, great style on the bike. Just planted, isn't he? You see, interesting, Masnada's got a very different style, forward on the saddle a little bit. Even when Harper was completely on the rivet, he would actually sat quite a long way back, a very old school style, dropping the heel at the bottom of every pedal stroke as well, arms at right angles, and slightly more ragged style by Fausto Masnada. Just interesting looking at the morphology of these riders as they sit on the bike. Effective in different ways. Some riders look completely at one with the machine, others look at slightly at odds with it, yet still they make it work, still they can be remarkably efficient. And I must admit, seen a lot more of Chris Harper over the last couple of weeks, and very impressive riding this.
I wonder what Simon Yates can do if this is part of the plan for him. He and brother Adam, of course, on different teams now. Adam in fantastic one-day form. We saw that come to play and fruition in Canada, didn't we, with a fantastic win there in Montreal. Yep. Amazingly, there's been no British rider on the podium here since 1977, Matt.
Oh, was that it? Was that Edwards?
That was Phil Edwards, yes.
Yeah, Phil Edwards, yeah.
And you'd think, I mean, looking at this is a race with a parkour that's right up both Yates' street, isn't it?
Oh, certainly is. It looks like Masnada has got company. Somebody's just punted straight by him. It looks like a DSM rider. Came by in a blur there, looked like a hummingbird, just buzzing through on the inside.
We haven't had a shot at the peloton for a while, have we? There's obviously been movement there. 24 seconds from this man to that. 16 seconds to now 2 chasing. See if we can find out who it is. 22.2 kilometres remain. And we've got an Australian at the front. How about that, eh? It's Chris Harper. J.K. Alula, the first team to make the first serious move.
Well,
we did have Masnada in the chase. He's been overtaken. And whoever is chasing here is rocketing down this hill, Matt Stevens.
It looks like it might be somebody from Team DSM, but the motorbike, quite wisely, is giving him a lot of space because of the speed that it was coming at. I thought for a bit it was going to be Romain Bardet, but I don't think it is Bardet. Slightly more diminutive frame. Just look at the pace on the inside there. Oh, that was pretty. Oh, that's Demon descending as if he was on rails. Or is it a rider? I tell you what, it looks like it might be
Bora Hansgrohe.
Yeah. It looks
and
like
I can tell you who it is. It's Giovanni Aleotti.
Yeah, Aleotti, yeah.
That is some demon descent. He's been warned here around this corner.
Yeah, he's completely distanced Masnada, isn't he? He's just gone straight by him. Yeah, in the shadows there, very difficult to pick out the jersey colour. But Aliotti now trying to bridge across.
Giovanni Aleotti, Italian rider from Bora-Hansgrohe. He's the only Italian they've lined up today amongst a really strong squad. We've talked about Vlasov and Higuita, but Kemna's here. Palzer is here, as well as Konrad and Buchmann. It is one of the strongest squads on paper in the lineup, and of course, if you've been following the rumours earlier on today, it's the latest possible destination for a certain Primož Roglic. So that's going to influence things today. The lineup they have today is fantastically strong.
It certainly is. It's a good option. Aliotti, an exceptionally gifted climber, and I don't think I've ever seen him descend quite as well. That was impressive stuff. Nearly span old Fausto Masnada around in a circle. But still, UAE Emirates haven't responded to any of those moves. I would imagine Aliotti just went across on that second part of the climb because the bunch was together over the top as we hit the climb for the third time now. And here it is. There's that little step up, bang, and they're straight on to the climb.
And that popular aesthetic climbing style you can see in the drops. Still struggling to see Aleotti come into picture, so it's a nice handsome lead for the moment. Now Aleotti hits the climb, and we're waiting for Masnada. There we go again. Boom.
It's a proper wall, isn't it? I'm glad we had the ability this time to linger before we lost the camera shot, but that does give you a real impression on the severity of this climb.
Now Aleotti bursts into the picture, doesn't he? So does the peloton though, and it's much smaller this time around, Matt.
Yeah, it certainly has shrunk a fair bit. It's probably a good 50 or 60 riders in there though, but yet significantly smaller than it was the previous time up. You can just see by the angle of the building there, that walkway with its 15 chapels. This gives you an indication of how steep this climb is. He's holding steady at 16 seconds again. It's a really unorthodox, it's a very unorthodox style climbing on the drops like that, but it can be quite effective. Clearly it's the favoured style of Harper, but it's a style that you do not see very often at all.
And then it can now see him up the road again for the first time in a while, it has to be said. It's 25 seconds here, and you can see there's a couple of carrots to catch before you get to Chris Harper, isn't there? This is the first of those. Aleotti behind is Masnada, who's slipping and sliding his way back to the peloton, who are now given at 22 seconds.
Yeah, the gap, of course, is foreshortened, isn't it, by the gradient here, but Aliotti doing a good job, but he's taken a few seconds, but still 15 seconds to Harper, who's ridden very smoothly and consistently, pacing himself very well on the climb, not pushing himself too far into the red. Because this climb is so severe, it's very easy, Rob, to just go. Quite often, without even knowing it, on a climb like this, you can push yourself into the red. The next thing you know, you're an oxygen jet and you've got to back off again. So when you really are fighting against this sort of gradient, it's so important you just undercook it if you can. And that's why it's so easy to get drops. On this midsection here that we can see the peloton, there's a little bit of benefit of drafting as the road flattens, but on those steep gradients, you're effectively on your own. And it's that measuring, feathering the gas, making sure you don't put it into the red, especially given the second part of this climb, through that little chicane and through that steep section that takes us into the last few hundred metres. If you overcook it there, there's nowhere to recover at all.
Harper's still out there. Really good, strong tactical play by Jeko Alula. The last time around with the other attacks, it did succeed in getting rid of a really strong rider for UAE in the shape of Rafał Majka. But for now, they've still got the bodies, haven't they? Still 3 riders in front of Tadej Pogačar. Still looking down. Roglic remains there. Yates. Both of them are there. This is Aleotti.
Yep.
Same 14.
He's just on the radio there, and there's all the well, more than a nod to Marco Pantani. He is utter
mechanical.
isn't it?
Mechanical.
Oh, is it a flat?
It's a flat.
Oh, that's unfortunate. Even harder to keep it going as well. Drifts around to the right hand side. See, he's just about kept the bike up right there. He had to redress his balance.
Not your day when that happens, is it?
No,
You've gone on the attack on one of the most iconic climbs in the world, and you get a puncture up it halfway.
Yeah. Very unfortunate. It's like Masnada about to be caught as well here.
Now there's been a change, Matt, because Jay Vine looks to me like he's done and dusted. It's now Diego Ulissi who takes up. Adam Yates is on his wheel. Tadej Pogacar remains there. Masnada is about to be caught.
It's a funny look.
Swinging as he's caught as well.
Yeah, did you see that? There's a little look from Diego Ulissi and just a slight shake of the head, though, Masnada. I don't think he's particularly happy with the way he was moving around on his bike there, but clearly at or near the end of his tether, right on the very limit on these steep slopes.
Just coming towards 2 laps to go at the top here, won't there? And we've got a 13-second gap now, Matt. UAE are putting the pressure on. It was a thinning out group at the bottom. Let's have a look at it here from on high. Not too much has changed in terms of numbers. Stretched out a little more. A couple of riders off the back here. Remember, a few hundred metres to go still to the top, Matt. But it's certainly smaller than it was at the bottom. Look at
definitely.
that. That is stunning.
Yeah, it's brilliant. And you can, one of the rides I didn't expect to see, which is a welcome surprise, Julian Alaphilippe. He's not too far away as well. But the thing is, if you're getting dropped at this point, you're not going to be in there at the finale, that's for sure.
San Luca. It's Sanctuary. Beautiful.
That's just such a lovely, lovely shot, that, wasn't it? With the Basilica just at the top there. Portico running on the left-hand side. Absolutely gorgeous as riders continue just to drop off this group.
It should be set in stone, shouldn't it? It should be something that never changes, this finale. I want to say the same about Milano-Torino as well, with the old finish up at Superga. I know it's become a sprinter's race, hasn't it? But
yeah, that's a shame, isn't it?
That's something that shouldn't change for me, just for the views.
I agree.
Look behind. 12 seconds. Going to make the finish once more in front. I think so. He'll take another drink. But there's big action to happen on this lap now. It's the penultimate lap that is about to take place. And we know how quickly it moves. 2 laps to go. And they're almost on him. Led by the man who won this race 10 years ago, Diego Ulissi. There's a quick chat between Adam Yates and Tadej Pogacar. In the final kilometre of that climb there was some serious damage done to the peloton. I'm looking at Ciccone, who's at the front. Vlasov, a former winner. Carapaz is still in there. We've seen Sivakov as well, with Roglic, Pogacar and Enric Mas too. It's a stellar lineup. And the man still leading things, forcing them to chase him, is Chris Harper.
Yep. As you say, all of the main favourites still in that front group. The remnants of the bunch, should I say. As Harper takes on the first part of the descent. Again, poised beautifully on his bike and taking these corners with ease. One would imagine he might be rejoined and taken back by the peloton. I can't see the UAE team members, the way they've been riding here, the way the bunch is thinning out, just easing off at all here. And they've not looked for assistance from anybody else. Tadej Pogacar just cools himself down again, making it look easy as rider Julia Ciccone in it. As you say, Vlasov is there too.
Ben O'Connor, Felix Gall, Simon Yates, Warren Barguil also spotted, Matt.
Yep, Rodriguez as well. There was Sivakov as well, Carlos Rodriguez. Getting used to him not being in the Spanish Champions kit, but he was there too.
Chris Harper's added a pattern, added a shape to this race. He's been the man who made the first serious move and made it stick. He's been out here for the majority of the laps we've had. We are now 1 and a bit laps to go. Interesting to see how UAE now use their power, use their firepower, because they're down to just 2 riders plus Pogacar, and in Adam Yates they've also got a potential winner as well. How do they play it? Do they continue to chase moves, or do they wait and hold back their fire once Diego Ulissi runs out of power? Because surely somebody now is going to make a move when they can.
Yeah, you wonder if Tadej Pogacar is going to try something and open up the race a little bit earlier. Maybe go on next time up the climb and take the bell, because depending on how UE Timmermans want to ride this, depending on if they've got a dual leadership role with Yates, because we know Adam Yates is in stellar form. We know Pogacar's in great form. When isn't Pogacar in form? Let's be honest. There's shades of form, but generally it's world beating every time he throws his leg over a bike. Let's be honest with you. But as you say, we're still 16 k's to go, 2 more ascents, and with only 1 lieutenant left, really, it is going to be quite interesting. Other teams just stacking up behind, but they're still doing the damage. Still doing Ulissi on the front here. But the way they're riding it would suggest to me that they might want to open up this race a little bit early and maybe go on the offensive next time up. We shall see.
Ulissi putting in a big turn behind. 11 seconds now. It starts to go down again. Second part of the climb before the descent into the penultimate climb up San Luca. Lots of elevation packed deep into this race.
You can tell that last little drag started to hurt, didn't it? He still kept that form. There's no real, clearly Harper here is starting to suffer, there's no doubt about it. But I tell you what, difficult to tell, isn't it? His facial expression hasn't really shifted at all. Maybe a slight little wince, but his body and his shape on the bike looks immaculate, even though he clearly is suffering here. But he would have liked getting over the top of that one, just to rest a little bit, just relax on the bike as we come into this hard left-hander. Nice little step down here. Thankfully, nicely surfaced, no problems at all for Harper. Back on the gas, but it won't be too long before we see the bunch rounding that corner. It's lovely afternoon sunshine.
15 kilometres to the finish line. They'll go through it and take the bell in another 6 k's time. Just 7 seconds now for Chris Harper. And the Giro Dell'Emilia coming to the boil. This is all that's left in the potential winners group. They're led by UAE Emirates, former winner in Diego Ulissi, Adam Yates, and last year's second place finisher Tadej Pogacar. Harper's just allowed to gain another second or two.
If they are going to Ulissi here, again, they're not really chasing Harper at this point. And it seems like a strange thing to say, but this isn't a pursuit at the moment. This is UAE riding at the pace that they want to ride at. Since we've come on air, Rob, I think it's fair to say, save for a little bit of positioning play into some key strategic points in the race, the only team that's ridden in the wind on the front are UAE Team Emirates. They are stamping their authority on this race. Well, they have stamped their authority on this race for the last couple of hours, and they're continuing to do that. So Ulissi at this particular point off getting himself a little bit of rest. They don't need to press too hard on the descent. However quick you ride a descent like this, save for opening up a few gaps, there's no real benefit of pressing on the descent because it's easy in the wheels. Where you want to give it a squeeze is where it matters, and that's on the flat bit, and then that's the climb itself. So Ulissi, he'll be riding well within himself to stay as long as he can, as deep into this race as he can. I don't think it's fair to say that they've got dwindling resource, but they have a particularly finite amount of resource left. So Ulissi just needs to pace himself here. We know the man out in front is a strong rider, but he's not going to pose a threat to the ultimate outcome of this race at the moment. But it's all about UAE controlling this race right now and putting the fear of God in people by the looks of things, stringing out this bunch. We'll soon be on the climb for the penultimate time. But yeah, what the other teams got up this league? That's going to be the interesting thing.
We've seen live images since just after, I think, around 75 kilometres to go. If there is to be a move on this next climb, it'll have been one long lead out from UAE, the way they've ridden.
Exactly.
But let's see. There are plenty of big actors ready to step up onto the stage.
Totally.
And it is quite the scenic, spectacular stage upon which to read the right lines. One and a bit laps to go then. And it all equals 2 climbs up to San Luca. Italian speakers, apologies about the language there. Camera operator's getting very het up. It's a stressful job, this. Whether you're on the bike or off it, up and down and around this circuit. Beautiful for us to watch. One of the most scenic races of the season. Certainly with the early autumnal weather being rather summery. Back into town, and he's ready to go through the big arch, and alongside the plenty of arches, the largest collection of them in the world, up to that sanctuary again. If he gets there at the front, he'll take the bell, but this time with 14 seconds of a gap, Matt. It's going to be a big ask, this, for Harper, isn't it?
It is. I mean, he's ridden so strongly and so smoothly, constantly checking the gap. He's just going to try and stay out in front as much as he can. But ultimately, his fate will be determined by the pace of the peloton. Quite an obvious thing to say, but all he's got to do is just try and stay in front. Can't put, again, there's another lap after this one. Got to try and pace himself on this climb, which quite often is such a difficult thing to do when the gradients are so steep. Any incremental, tiniest of increases in pace can put somebody into the red as the peloton hit the bottom of the climb. With a fair bit
Keep
of
your
pace
eyes on them here.
Yeah.
Alaphilippe has disappeared from the line. It's Ilan van Wilder who's moved up now. This is Harper. And it's Ulissi leading the chase in front of Adam Yates. Pogačar in his Slovenian national champions jersey waits. There's a lot of looking around going on at the minute. This rider's trying to move up. Yates now is the man who's going to make his move, and here we go. Here we go. Van Wilder wants to follow. It's Adam Yates who tried to stealthily make that move with Pogačar following. It looks as though something special is being teed up on the hill. And here we go, Matt Stevens. The race is well and truly on.
Yeah, Ulissi just tried to go for as long as he can. It won't be long before Harper is taken back. It wasn't quite an attack, but it was a significant change of pace, wasn't it? It was a real right. Okay, this is where the racing really starts to begin. An immediate response by the impressive young Belgian Van Wilder, who's just on the wheel of Yates out of the saddle. Roglic spinning that low gear in that familiar style of his, about 10 riders back as well. Vlasov there too, but former teammate has now been caught. Settled into rhythm, just a little glance around there to survey the damage, and here's that little move.
Ulissi was done. Yates accelerated. Van Wilder made sure that he put it together. Then Pogačar was able to follow. And the names that Matt was reeling off then sitting on the wheel, including Ciccone as well, O'Connor too.
Amazing, Harper's managed to slot down into, I don't know how long he's going to stay there for, but fair play to Harper to slot back in the line out there, just dropping down the field there. Mast also looks good as well. Tis Benut as well, just a little bit further back, trying to stay in contact.
There's a split, isn't there, after Benot? And look who he's with. It's Domenico Pozzovivo, who's still hanging on at the grand old age that he had, now into another decade. This is the front of the race then. No more than 15 to 20 riders. Tis Benot, as Matt was saying, on the back. Zana is still in there alongside Simon Yates. Ben O'Connor sits in fourth wheel, and it's Adam Yates now ahead of Ilan van Wilder. And the plan is all then for Pogačar now.
Yep, counted 16 riders in this group, Benut being the last one. 16 riders left as Yates continues to squeeze on this steep part. This is where a rider of the calibre of Yates really needs to try and lean on this as the gaps start to open. Carapaz also looking good there. Mass.
There was O'Connor in a bit of trouble. Just slipping and sliding,
well.
Matt.
Sorry, Rob. Just spotted Woods in the centre there as well. Just on the wheel of Alexander Vlasov.
It's this acceleration that's also putting Pozzovivo in a little bit of trouble too out the back. You can see his style left to right. Barguil starts to struggle. That is Van Wilder who's gone backwards. O'Connor now loses contract. Left-hand side in the green. Former winner Vlasov is there, ready and waiting. Roglic remains. Ciccone looks down and looks tired, but he's hanging on. Grits his teeth. Woods, that man you mentioned, still there for Israel Premier Tech, and Simon Yates in the blue and white too. But it's his brother who's putting down the power, who is inflicting the pain. And there are 10 kilometres to go as Benot hangs on for dear life at the back here.
I don't think anybody looks particularly comfortable here. Everybody's suffering. trying to hold on to the wheels as they winch themselves towards the top of this climb.
Into the final 10Ks we've moved. Adam Yates, Tadej Pogačar. A look round from Pogačar. He sees the bright coloured jersey that belongs to Richard Carapaz. Then it's Mas and Roglic with Vlasov there as well. A little further behind, the likes of Ciccone, who was struggling, parking up there on the right as we looked at it. Woods towards the back. Simon Yates as well. Tish Benoot still there.
Yep, just looking at how many riders have got teammates. There's two from UAE, obviously, the two riders on the front there. And then there's two from Jumbo-Visma, so Roglic and Benoot. Everybody else has no teammates. But the way Yates is riding here, looks like he's going to be able to continue. Oh, Benoot has gone. He did have a teammate with him. It's just this horrible little drag all the way to the top now.
And how quickly he drops off the back. Props to Ciccone there, who was struggling when we last looked at the replay, but he's just hanging on here. You can see he's trying to hang on to the back wheel of Simon Yates. He's managing it now. He'll get a little bit of a rest if he can make it up to the finish line here. But it's Adam Yates who is putting everybody in all kinds of pain.
It certainly is. Everybody just locked and loaded into the wheel in front. Nobody's thinking about making a move here, that is for sure. This relentless pace being set by Yates has put the vast majority of this field to the sword. There's only about 10 or 12 riders. Another little squeeze, another little acceleration over the top, adjusted specs, and there's the selection as we head into the final lap.
The bell will ring, and this is a collection of some of the greatest bike riders we've seen in the last 10 years in the professional world. It is quite the start list. It's quite the collection. Adam Yates leads them. His teammate Tadej Pogačar and all of the challengers. But it's advantage UAE here, and pressure falling on Pogačar's shoulders to finish this one off, Matt, with 1 lap to go.
Yeah, definitely. Well, Yates will stay in and lead and take them into the climb, I think, because there are no other riders with any teammates. So it's only Tadej Pogačar. And we talked about the depth in strength, talked about the way that they've dominated this race so far, and Pogačar is the only team to still have a resource is UAE Team Emirates. I mean, it's they've still got to finish this one off, but just the way it's trying to look at the body language on the bikes under the pressure that Yates was putting on them, and Tadej Pogačar, as ever, looked serene, looked calm, looked very much in control, where everybody else was starting to struggle. The only rider that we haven't had a really good look at is the man in the centre, in that yellow jersey, the man on the move to destinations unknown, Primož Roglic. Sat in the wheels, biding his time, and it looks like as if next time up it is just going to be a battle of the strongest. This might not even, so far there's been no real tactical play here, Rob, apart from UAE Team Emirates riding on the front. It's just about strength. That's all this is at the moment, and I think that's what it's going to be. That's what's going to happen last time out. It's going to be the strongest rider here, and I don't think, because Yates is committed to work for Tadej Pogačar here, there's going to be the opportunity for anybody to try and to get away early. It's every man for themselves now.
8+1 then.
Yeah.
Ciccone, Simon Yates, Woods. There's Vlasov, Roglic, Pogačar, defending champion Mas, and Carapaz. All being led by Pogačar's teammate, Adam Yates.
Wisely as well, you've just seen Tadej Pogačar, just after sitting on the wheel of Yates for the vast majority of the climb, or for the whole of the climb, he's just dropped back to third or fourth wheel, just so he can get a little bit more rest on the wheels, and also to get sight of riders that he considers to be a threat, just making sure that nobody tries a crafty one and then everybody turns to look at him to chase. I'm wondering if Tish Benoot can get back on, but I don't think he's completely gone. Once you capitulate and implode on a climb like that, it's very hard at this stage of the race to get back in contact. They put the cars in the gap as well, suggesting the gap to the next riders on the road is a significant one. But Yates still rides at this constant rhythm, metronomic, isn't he?
Roglic in the centre of the group in the yellow and black of Jumbo-Visma. The jersey's only likely to be wearing for the next week. If you're joining us late today, Primož Roglic told our colleague on the ground, Antoine Plouvin, that he is definitely leaving Jumbo-Visma. He'll announce his destination in around a week's time. So one final attack from the Killer Bee. Let's see. Because if he does manage to take the win today, Primož Roglic will have as many wins in this race, Matt, as the great Fausto Coppi.
Is it?
Already a two-time victor in the last 3 years.
This is one of the, just thinking about how to describe the way this race has been ridden and raced so far. It's just been attritional. It's just been riders falling off the back. It's elite sport at its most brutal. It's pure and simple strength. Obviously, there's the making sure you save your energy and the story that's led up to this point. But this is pure and simple. Hold on for as long as you can. It
now
really is.
Ciccone.
But here we go. Ciccone tries something. A little bit of a play. Carries a bit of extra pace into this corner, Rob.
No surprise, really, wanting this on the descent, wants to put a bit of pressure on. He was the one who was really gritting his teeth at the back over the top.
Yeah.
And he's trying to take advantage here, and this is a slightly different look on things. It doesn't last so long, though, because Adam Yates returns to the front, calms things down, and we're now 6 kilometres from the finish line. A little bit of a gap off the back. Simon Yates has lost the wheel. Michael Woods as well. Just going to see if this develops into something on the way down. Storing order for Tadej Pogačar at the front of the group, however. Just for a little bit of housekeeping before we start the final climb again, Matt. The rest of them are out of it now. 35 seconds to the next group.
Yeah. So just a list of the players. As Yates hits the front again, we've got Yates here, Enric Mas of Movistar, Alexander Vlasov of Bora, Richard Carapaz, EF, Roglic is there for Jumbo-Visma, Ciccone, we've seen him attack for Lidl Trek, Simon Yates of Jayco Lula, Tadej Pogačar, and then Mike Woods. That is the lineup in the front group.
Nine of the strongest riders in the world descending for the final time at the end of this Giro Dell'Emilia. They've one short, sharp, but very nasty climb to go. It'll be their fifth and final ascent up to San Luca. Begins in just over 2 kilometres time. Adam Yates, teammate of Tadej Pogačar. Yet to win this race, by the way. Not among one of his 63 professional victories. He was second last year to Enric Mas, who's the defending champion. Amazing former winners in this group as well. You know, Vlasov is there, two-time winner Roglic as well as Mas. And plenty of riders looking through the group, the likes of Carapaz and Simon Yates as well, who you'd really put in as contenders for a race on this parkour.
Oh, definitely. It is. It's probably, I think it might be fair to say, although I haven't gone back and combed through the fields over the last few years, this must be one of the best lineups for this race ever. It really, really is. A star-studded cast, and we've got an elite selection. But what we have now is we've got this group of 9 riders. 8 of them are thinking about winning it, getting a spot on the podium, and one of them, Adam Yates, has got a completely different psychological view on the way the rest of the race is going. So his race now is simple, and that's to make it as hard as possible for as long as he can and thin out this group. So his finish line might actually be up to unless somebody goes early and tries to put Tadej Pogačar on the back foot a little bit. Yates now is just thinking about making this race as hard as he can for Pogačar to go over the top. So he's not thinking about the win now, save for the win for his teammate.
Conversation on the radio between the two riders you just mentioned, Adam Yates and Tadej Pogačar, shoring up the final plan. And here is Yates at the front with 3 kilometres to go to execute it. They're less than a kilometre now from entering the climb for the final time. They'll go through the arch. And Pogačar moves up. Once they're through the arch, it's the arches that will lead them to the top.
So Yates there's just knocked it off a little bit here. It's just making sure he composes himself, takes a big breath, using this little bit here just to recuperate a little bit. He won't even go fully flat stick to the bottom of the climb. It's when he hits the climb he'll start to winch into it, feel the bite of the climb. A climb like this the way to ride a climb like this, the final stages, is for the climb to come to you, find that biting point and just hold it there, then start to squeeze and just see this group start to thin out.
The famous arches up ahead. Under it and onto the final battleground at this 106th edition of the Giro Dell'Emilia. The field of play awaits. The actors are coming through the tunnel. It's time to go, and they're led by Adam Yates. A vicious rise in the gradient. They're uphill, and it's now best man wins. So 2 kilometres to go. Let the games begin, Matt Stevens.
Yep, this is all about legs now. And also, who's got the stomach to suffer, to turn yourself inside out as well?
Looking at Simon Yates closely for the first time, he's been down at some point today. He has a big mark on his right shoulder. Doesn't look to be affecting him for the minute, as you can see Vlasov moving to the left-hand side. Simon Yates on the right, also missing a number on the left-hand side there.
Yeah, it looks like he has been down, like you said. I didn't notice that before, Rob. But Vlasov trying a little move on the
It's Vlasov who makes the first move, and this could be interesting tactically, because Adam Yates might have to use the final bit of power that's in his legs to make sure he closes it. He does it with relative ease, in fact. Roglic is moving on one side as well, and Pogačar continues to sit smack bang in the middle of the group.
Well, Vlasov has got a pretty decent kick. A lot of these riders have, but I think right now this is just a battle of survival. I think you could say, well, which rider would want to go long here? What rider would rather leave it to the last few hundred metres? So riders will approach this climb with different ideas, but right now they can't really even think about that. It's like, right, we've just got to hold on for as long as we can and just see how far I can go into this climb before thinking about it. But this is, right now, it's pure cycling Darwinism. It really is. It's survival of the fittest. And the man that's digging a big hole for everybody right now is Adam Yates. As you say, calmly, almost with a certain insolence, moved on to the wheel, didn't he, of Vlasov, where snuffing out that attempt at splitting things up with relative ease.
Pogačar moves up now onto the wheel of Yates. Hasn't been there throughout the first half of this climb as Yates looked behind, surveys the damage. We're inside 1.4 kilometres now to the finish. Carapaz moves further up in the group too. As Roglic is still there, he's just hidden behind the wheel of Enric Mas, defending champion. The only little bit of a rest you get on this climb is right here, right now. And the kilometre to go arch is up ahead.
Indeed, you've got that little flick-flack where the road starts to kick. And that is the point one would imagine Tadej Pogačar or Roglic might try and want to make their move. So on the steeper sections, that's where power to weight kicks in. And here we go, under the archway.
Out the pedals. And it's an armchair ride for everybody to hang on at them. It doesn't mean it's easy. The pace is pretty horrific right now. It's brother Simon hanging on at the back. A reminder, he's been down at some point today. Now we get movement. It's Michael Woods on the left as we look at it now. Pogačar too. Adam Yates is done. Ciccone starts to struggle. Who can hang on? Who can go? It's Pogačar powering up this into the final kilometre now. Carapaz is there. Roglic remains. Woods drifts, but he's still in the game. Ciccone is out of it, however, and Simon Yates is hanging on for dear life. He's out the split. We're down to 5. It's Pogačar, Carapaz, with Roglic trying to move up. Woods is now starting to struggle as well. And that is that for Simon Yates, it seems. 900 metres to go, and look at Pogačar power away. It's Pogačar, Carapaz, Roglic, and Mas is the next man who's just struggling. Daylight opens up. It's 3+1, Matt, and 700 metres now to the finish line.
It's a great ride by Richard Carapaz here, the Ecuadorian champion, on the wheel of Pogačar, who eases ever so slightly. He looks around, and there's stealthily as ever vigilant, so dangerous, Primož Roglic, and Mas, the defending champion, back into the fray.
And here goes Carapaz.
Oh, big move.
Carapaz goes just as it became 4 again. Vlasov was desperately trying to get in contact. Didn't make it because that was the move. It's chased down. It's calm again. 600 metres now to the line. And here comes Vlasov. Likely to just try and take his chance. Ooh, and he's off to one side and almost off the bike there with Enric Mas.
Yeah.
Now, through the arch once more. And it's Carapaz who tries to steal a march. not going anywhere, not fully committed, and there's some fast riders still in here, as Simon Yates might yet make his way back on.
It looks like he might do. The hardest part of the climb is done and dusted. It starts to flatten out, only about 4 or 5%, if that, 600 metres to go. This is getting, it's turned in to the, well, turned from one sort of race to another. Now this is a super tactical gain on the wheel of Yates. Getting back into the mix is Mike Woods as well. Ciccone not far away too.
A sensationally entertaining climb. It's seesaw stuff, it's a tug of war, and now there's a very brief acceleration from Pogačar. Approaching 400 metres to go now with Vlasov there. Simon Yates around the corner. Roglic getting ready to Roglify it if he can, and now he goes. Roglic on the right-hand side in the yellow. Hits the front, and it's always hard to bring him back. He's stolen a march on his compatriot Pogačar, and it's opening up. Roglic motoring around the corner here. The finish line now is almost in sight. Roglic opening up, and it doesn't look like anybody can compete with him. Primož Roglic around the corner. Almost 5 hours of racing, and Roglic might be moving on, but he ain't going anywhere. Roglic coming to the line, hands in the air, his first one-day race of the year, and he is back with a bang. It's Roglic ahead of Pogačar, a Slovenian 1-2, and Primož Roglic now has as many wins as Motta, Coppi, Cassani. Only the great Costante Girardengo has won this race more than the Slovenian superstar.
Well, what strength, what craft, what patience from Primož Roglic. He is a lethal weapon. He really is. No wonder next year and the year after he's probably going to be one of the highest paid cyclists in the world. That was absolute perfection. Never showed his hand. The first time that he hit the front of this race was the winning move. He does it time and time again. And when he went, it was so devastatingly effective, so violent, and quite beautiful as well at the same time. Look at this turn of speed.
It is Roglic who gets to the front, and at this point, you don't feel he's coming back at any point.
No. Just snap
so
the
it's Roglic. It's Pogačar, and it's Simon Yates after crashing early on and being dropped. One of the performances of the day. And the first British rider on the podium since 1977.
Yeah, that's a very good ride by Yates there. As you say, was dropped on the climb, got his way back on again there. A wag of the finger there from Roglic. What can you say about this man? What a season he's had. And he wins yet again.
Wonderful. A Slovenian 1-2. Pogačar in second place for the second year running. And I'll repeat what I said a moment ago. Roglic might be moving on, but he is not going anywhere. He turns up, he wins, whether it be in stage racing. Only beaten by his teammates this year as far as that's concerned, and we all know what happened there. And it's his first one-day race of the season. Played one, won one.
Yep. It was. Yeah, we're going to see it from the air now. We're going to see when he made his move. That's when the group just came back together, and there it is. There's that acceleration on the left-hand side. Yates tries to go with it first. Well, sorry, Pogačar's just slightly hidden by the tree there, but there's nothing he could do. And for the last 200 or 300 metres, the fastest man in that group, and increasing the gap with every single violent pedal stroke, Primož Roglic. Really was quite devastating, wasn't it? And we know how explosive Tadej Pogačar can be, but he had no answer for that. A little glance round, yet another win.
He made it look so easy. Surveys his handiwork, and time to celebrate. Bravo indeed.
We now know who the favourite is for Lombardia. Well, we've got a couple of five-star favourites, haven't we?
Well, they climb to a sanctuary of iconic beauty. And it's a cycling icon who specialises in aesthetic but powerful performance. It's another one ticked off the list for Primož Roglic. A third win at the Giro Dell'Emilia. Third win in 5 editions.
It's not a bad record, is it? And that's a win number 63 this year for Jumbo-Visma as well. Quite incredible season.
So off to the podium. The day started with Roglic news. It ends with a Roglic win.
Does certainly seem to be enjoying his bike racing this year. I don't think I've ever seen Roglic in such a generally good mood. I mean, obviously having the form that he's got, it just helps. But even in the past, he's always seen a little bit more reserved. But he seems to be just really enjoying his bike racing and is far more open to express how he's feeling, it seems.
It's another victory for Primož Roglic at the Giro dell'Emilia. Oh, what a sight, what a scene. Thousands of people who lined the road. Saw a really special battle there. Yes, there wasn't too much in terms of attacks and early moves, but that didn't matter. Quite the collection of superstar riders together at the end there. Yes, we often get big pack start lists. We don't often get the collection of big names like that, Matt, outside of Grand Tour racing in the mountains, finishing races like that.
Oh, definitely. I mean, for this race, as you said, look back through the winners and the riders that have been on the podium. It is a who's who, the history of cycling. But as you say, this particular edition, that was a proper Stardust quality. And as you say, a proper royal podium. And I'm just counting through. That's 16 wins for Primož Roglic this year now. 16 wins.
Congratulations, it's your third victory here. And how do you feel about winning again?
Yeah, beautiful. I mean, yeah, it's just iconic all the race. Yeah, San Luca climb. I like it, I love it, and yeah, it's always just great to finish it off. And yes, like I said, I also like Mortadella.
And would you like to dedicate this victory to someone in particular?
Oh yeah, my family. I mean, they just always support me in, of course, in the good times, especially hard times. And yeah, today they are not here, but anyway, supporting for me.
Can you describe the last kilometers? It was planned to attack, or it crossed your mind?
I was super hard. I mean, at the end, I went for it, and yeah, obviously I had the legs to finish it off.
Thank you.
Thank you.
As brief as ever. He's quite succinct as our Primož, isn't he? I like it.
Well, he delivers with the one-liners as well as he delivers on the road.
Yeah.
And what a season. Yes. A lot of talk about the Vuelta a España. Plenty of drama, polemica. But in stage racing, aside from that Vuelta, undefeated this year. In one-day racing, played 1-1.
Yeah, quite incredible record. Even by the lofty standards of this modern era that we're in at the moment, Rob, 16 wins. Well, yeah, it's incredible. Whoever has got his signature will be smiling. Not that they really needed any further proof of this man's ability, but just an affirmation, really, of how good Primož Roglic is. And also how well he knows this climb. And you look back, as well as the victories in this race, look back to, was it 2019, when he took the time trial up here in the opening stage of the Giro. He really does know how to unlock it, doesn't he?
Dobbiamo invitare Mauro Schmidt della Sudal Quick Step. Mentre per la gran combinata Gran Premio della Montagna.
Well, this is how the day's race panned out. 8 riders in the original breakaway, quickly down to 6, and then there were just 2. Mattia Bais just alongside Christian Scaroni with 70 kilometres to go. Roglic sat back in the peloton, all the superstars alongside him, and slowly bringing back this pair that, when they were on their own, had a maximum gap of 50 seconds. 50 turned to none as they were on their way into the first of 5 ascents up San Luca. As stunningly beautiful as ever. I'm ready to see it play out. Chris Harper with quite the performance for the second time this week ahead. Proving once again that the Australian on his day is super strong. UAE Emirates continue to make it hard behind. Adam Yates taking over from Diego Lisi. Harper neutralised, and we were in to the final lap. 9 riders came to the bottom of the climb together. And they were all led by Adam Yates, who was ready to sacrifice his own opportunities for Tadej Pogačar. He kept it together into the final kilometre or so. And the fun and games began. Woods, Pogačar, Roglic, Mas, Vlasov and Carapaz. But riders who looked dropped made their way back. And Simon Yates making his way back after a crash earlier in the race. Making his way too onto the podium. First British podium since '77. Another Slovenian win. A Slovenian 1-2. And a 3rd victory at this race for Primož Roglic in 5 years. Only one man in the history of the race now has more victories here than he. Up there with Coppi. Always special.
Enjoyed that one, didn't he?
Pavel Sivakov. Oh, he said the dogs came out to watch, and well, look who it belongs to.
That's great.
VIP guest. Pavel Sivakov not quite in it. Ineos missing out on the final moves on that final lap today.
Yeah, it was there or thereabouts, wasn't it? Well, it was there or thereabouts, but then didn't quite make that final selection. Rodriguez not there either. But no, really emphatic victory there for Roglic. It's just the consistency. It's not just the win rate. It's right from the start of the year as well, Rob. It's you know, he's just consistently peaking, isn't he? You know, there are these spells at altitude, of course, just before leading into the Giro d'Italia this year for Primož Roglic. But every race he's come to, he's won. It is an incredible record. Save, of course, for the Vuelta, where he still took 2 stages there, didn't he? But that lovely golden light, it's beautiful, isn't it?
Yeah, favourite time of year for these shots, and it's almost as if it's the best time to be racing in Italy with all the colours of fantastic buildings. Something we'll be enjoying over the next week as we build up to the Giro di Lombardia. 2/3 of the Trittico Lombardo still left. Monday and Tuesday. Gran Piemonte on Thursday. And of course the big one racing from Como to Bergamo next Saturday. Imagine that a good chunk of this lot will be involved in it.
You'd have thought so. Pogačar just did what Pogačar does. It didn't quite have that force, did it? Couldn't quite snap the elastic. Teed up very well though by Adam Yates, but couldn't quite punch his way clear this time. It was a heck of a comeback. You see where Yates is, Simon Yates at the moment, ultimately ended up third. But it was that little bit of easing just over the top once Pogačar realised that the attacks weren't quite strong enough. And that was an interesting one, wasn't it? That wasn't actually the fault of Mas there. Didn't shut the door on Vlasov, but Vlasov just tried to carry that momentum. And the door was shut. And this is the moment. From the back of the group as well. So it was just not just the timing, not just the ferocity of the effort here, Rob, but it was just how well placed he was. Went from the back, you know, it's classic. It's real textbook. And there's nothing anybody could do. Everything right there. Okay, he had that pace, but there was no, you can have the pace and try and go from the front, you're not going to win, but it's just the way that, just everything about that move was perfect. It really, really was.
Oh, when he gets into those positions, he's a killer, isn't he, Roglic?
Oh, it really is. I mean, a small group finish on the top of a hill. Again, we'll have to look back. I'm sure somebody at GCN would find a stat. But from a small group, Roglic, not quite unbeatable, but his win rate is just off the charts. It really is. He'd be odds on every time, wouldn't he?
Well, our mate and colleague Daniel Friebe coined the term, didn't he, a while back? Roglification.
Indeed. Rogcinerator, I think, has been used a couple of times as well. We're running out of superlatives, aren't we, for the way that he just takes apart the final of a race. But no, entertaining. A great race. Entertaining race. UAE Team Emirates in control until the last 300 metres.
They've come from far and wide to see their heroes. And we're hoping to see the heroes on the podium as well. Try our best to bring it to you. It sounds like we're ready. Primož Roglic wins the 106th Giro Dell'Emilia. He beats his compatriot Tadej Pogačar, who finishes second for the second successive year. Simon Yates gets ahead of last year's winner Enric Mas to be the first British podium place for, well, since 1977. Not going to do the maths on that. Mas fourth and Woods fifth. Here is Simon Yates, who had a crash early on. Looks well enough, thankfully. He was certainly well enough to race a great race to the top there. And Jaco Alula have to be congratulated. They put in an aggressive performance today, attacking with Harper, resisting well with Yates, and finishing in third. Well, this is one of the few events resisting Tadej Pogačar for the moment. He's turned up a couple of times and finished second a couple of times. Of course, the one he wants to make a hat-trick in is a week from now. He's going well. And talking of hat-tricks, it's the third win for Primož Roglic. He joins Cassani, Motta and the great Coppi on 3 wins. Only Costante Girardengo has more victories in the Giro dell'Emilia.
Are we going to see the telemark? He still does that, doesn't he? But, not on this occasion.
Here we go. There we go.
Good old Primož. Always delivers.
Roglic started the day by announcing that it was official. An open secret now made public. He will leave Jumbo-Visma at the end of the season. We'll find out in the next week where he's headed. Rumours about, but the certainty today is that he remains a real force. Roglic, Pogačar, Yates. Quite the podium, quite the race. Well, from Matt Stevens and me, Rob Hatch, thanks for joining us today. Plenty more to come on the home of cycling on Eurosport, Discovery Plus and GCN Plus. We'll leave Primož to take home his mortadella We'll be back in a couple of days' time. From us, grazie.